It would be 8E. We are adding resolution regarding unauthorized disclosure of privileged and confidential information. Are there any other changes? Yes.
Mayor, I just want to point out that for the closed meeting, we're also going in for paragraph 29.
Paragraph 29.
Which is contract involving the expenditure of public funds.
Okay. That was an addition to the closed meeting. In addition to paragraph 3 and 8, it would also be paragraph 29. Okay. Are there any other edits or changes to the agenda? Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that was 2 ayes at home, right?
Right.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. If everyone would please join us in a moment of silence, and Vice Mayor Banks, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next we move on to public comment time. We have received one email for public comment from Mr. Carrera. He writes, I ask that you delay your approval of the Manassas Park downtown development in each phase and allow additional input from the community. The city manager's December 2019 community forums presentation did not include any mention or cost for the new city hall. The presentation as showed a different site plan with less residential, which was abruptly reconfigured in February. I would ask that you delay approval and hold additional forums with accurate cost impact and an updated site plan. This will remove the perception of city management and elected leaders misleading the community. New City Hall cost of $40 million was not part of the city manager's presentation. New downtown development site plan was abruptly changed in February and not advertised. Community forum presentation site plan. Economic indicators that showed a slowing in commercial retail development, destruction and demolition of only historic building in the city of Manassas Park, the Connor House, NHRP number 8100645, VLR number 152-0001, $46 million in city debt. This was sent in by Mr. Michael Carrera. Okay, moving on.
Ma'am,
Yes.
may I ask, is that the exact, that sounds like, is that the exact same statement we got on email?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
okay,
was the
just-
exact same statement. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to public hearing. The next item is a public hearing for the purpose of receiving input regarding an appointment for the term of 3 years to the Manassas Park School Board. Our two applicants are Ms. Shannon Myers and Ms. Rachel Kirkland. So I declare the public hearing open. And I just want to say we're always grateful when folks step forward to do volunteer work for the city or volunteer in any way to serve the city. So thank you very much. I don't think there is any staff presentation for this. Does the governing body have any comments before I proceed to read the emails of support that have come in? Okay, no comment. Okay. I will try to read them as in the order in which they arrived. So the first one, is Ms. Tamara Ayers in support of Shannon Myers. Oh, let me mention that city attorney will be the timer. Normally, if speakers come in and speak live at the podium, there's a 3-minute limit. So several of these emails are quite long. So city attorney will be a timer, and he'll let me know when my 3 minutes is up. Okay, Ms. Tamara Ayers in support of Shannon Myers. Good morning, my name is Tamara Ayers, and my family and I have lived in Manassas Park for almost 25 years. My good friend Shannon Myers has put her name in to be considered for a seat on the school board, and I would like to let you know that I believe she would be a great asset to our MPCS system. I worked for MPCS from 2009 to 2017 as a special education instructor assistant at both Cougar Elementary and Manassas Park Elementary School. I have had many dealings with the school board members both as employee and as a parent from approximately 2003 to the present. I have known the Myers family for most of that time. My daughters have been on school teams with both Myers daughters, and both of our families were on the summer swim team for Stonewall Park swim team for multiple years. Ms. Myers has always been very interested and involved in all matters concerning the schools, and I personally feel she would be a great asset to the board. She's been very supportive of issues concerning the school system and has the school's best interest at heart, and through my years as a Manassas Park parent comes to a close at the end of this school year, I too have the best interest of the schools at heart. I plan to continue to support MPCS as they have always been a great ally and support system for me as an employee and my daughters as students, and I fully support Ms. Myers taking a position on the board. Next is Ms. Susan Tamra Elliott in support of Rachel Kirkland. Dear Ms. Connor, I'm writing in support of reappointing Rachel Kirkland to the Manassas Park School Board. She has the knowledge, experience, and dedication we need to ensure all students get the very best education experience in Manassas Park that Manassas Park can provide. With 12 years of experience on the Manassas Park School Board, she is exceptionally qualified to continue in this capacity. She understands the various roles and priorities of the board. She understands the intricacies of the budgeting process. Equally important is her ability and dedication to work with various interests and stakeholders in order to achieve the best outcome for our students. She has in-depth knowledge of the school system, which is critical in the decision-making process. She has worked in 3 different schools within the Manassas Park system since 2006, which has given her firsthand knowledge of what students and teachers experience each day. The school board needs to have a voice that can provide this perspective so they can make informed decisions, especially now as we face unprecedented challenges. She has made her priorities clear, and they include hiring a new superintendent, creating a sustainable staffing model, and creating a plan to retain high-performing and experienced staff. These will be key as we consider how to move forward. She is an intelligent, dedicated member of Manassas Park community. Students need a representative on the board with her unique combination of experience, dedication, and perspective. I know that she will strive to ensure all children in Manassas Park school system have a chance to learn and succeed. I strongly urge you to reappoint Rachel Kirkland to the Manassas Park School Board. Next is Miss Sonia Taylor in support of Rachel Kirkland. Rachel Kirkland is a tireless servant of students and the community of Manassas Park. She should absolutely be reappointed to the school board. Next, Mr. Deshaun Williams in support of Rachel Kirkland. I just want to take a moment to express my appreciation for the wonderful job that Rachel Kirkland has been doing serving on Manassas Park School Board Council. She expertly demonstrates concern and care within her ability to add great value and is known throughout the Commonwealth to aid others. Thanks to her hard work, the Manassas Park's reputation of dedication, creativity, and resourcefulness has grown and continues to better serve the community while keeping up with the demands of change and structure for its residents. Her contributions to the council reflect the team's priorities, and as individuals, you have worked well together with your varying different voices. You should know that I'm grateful to live in a city that believes in a job well done and that you have done in your roles up to this point with the children and parents. And I look forward to seeing what you will accomplish for the city and its residents in the future. Ms. Carrie Lynn Hazelwood in support of Rachel Kirkland. My name is Carrie Lynn Hazelwood, and I'm a proud resident of Manassas Park. I'm writing this email to request that Rachel Kirkland be reappointed as a school board member for Manassas Park City Schools. I'm a colleague of Mrs. Kirkland's at Baldwin Intermediate in Manassas City. She's a hardworking, enthusiastic, and is dedicated to the betterment of education. I see Mrs. Kirkland working tirelessly for both districts to ensure student and staff needs are met. As a highly educated woman and someone who has devoted her time to MPCS since 2008, I believe she is the best person to continue on the job. Mr. James Kirkland, in support of Rachel Kirkland. Once again, Rachel is up for reappointment to the Manassas Park School Board. I wholeheartedly recommend her for reappointment. Her experience as a school board member, professional background as an educator and administrator in the Manassas City school system, her teaching endorsement in English and library media science, as well as 30 hours in graduate-level education and school administration, all reflect the highest qualifications for this position. Beyond that, you won't find another individual more committed to public education and the children of Manassas Park than my wife. She lives and breathes education, even when she's not working as the head librarian of our neighboring school system or working here in the park with the city and the school leadership. She's volunteering her time to support students from our community and those nearby to get access to every resource they can utilize to further their educational opportunities through high school and beyond. Her knowledge of resources for special needs, aspiring first-generation college students, distance learning, information technology, and adult education is in itself a resource Manassas Park can be proud of.
Mayor?
Yes.
Real quick, I got a comment that Rachel actually worked in Manassas, not Manassas Park. She assists in Manassas
Oh,
Park. She
okay.
worked in Manassas.
Okay.
The comment was that there was an incorrect statement that was made.
Oh, okay,
Might
okay.
have been a typo, but
Okay, do you know whose statement it was?
I think she said she thought it was Tamara.
Oh, Ms. Elliott?
Yeah, it's the one before.
Yeah, Ms. Elliott, okay. So it was
Correctly, or
Manassas Park and not,
works in Manassas City,
works in Manassas City, not in Manassas Park.
is active in Manassas Park.
Okay, okay. Ms. Serinda Check, in support of Rachel Kirkland. I am writing this email in regards to Rachel Kirkland's reappointment to the school board. I have been blessed to know this amazing woman for about 10 years now as both an educational philanthropist and a strong role model. Mrs. Kirkland is the perfect definition of someone that will give their all to the community. She is an unstoppable force that will do everything she can to help kids have every advantage they can in school, even post-graduation. Mrs. Kirkland has shown a number of students that they can achieve success, no matter their background. As a child of an immigrant family, I didn't exactly know where I was going to fit in school-wise. I didn't know what educational opportunities that I was going to have throughout middle school and high school. She has helped show me the doors to the endless possibilities of what could be my successful future. She has helped me gain access to college fairs that definitely opened my eyes to countless options for the future. What once was a cloudy path finally became clear with the help of Mrs. Kirkland. She has also helped me to learn to focus on my present endeavors. As of next year, I will be on track to be taking my SAT, and she has granted me with numerous sources of access to review material. In addition to review material for the SAT, she has also helped students that are quite stressed about the upcoming AP tests by giving them references to college review sessions. She is truly dedicated to the success of students at Manassas Park. I have seen this amazing woman in other atmospheres out of school. One day, my friends and I decided to volunteer at Mrs. Kirkland's library on our day off of school. It was very heartwarming to see how dedicated she was to the children there. I remember taking an inventory of the books in the library while the children would come up to me and ask where she was, which truly shows how much the children love her. While we were taking a quick break that day, she had brought in one of her younger students at the school for my friends and I to meet. She had mentioned that the student had been going through a rough time at home with his family, which caused him to act a bit out of the ordinary at school. Seeing how much she cared about this student and how she interacted with him showed me that she sees the light in any and all students, no matter how she interacted with him. Showed me that she sees the light in any and all students. She sees potential in every student that she meets. Overall, Rachel Kirkland is one that conducts herself with dedication towards all students. Her natural, kind, and sympathetic personality is what helps kids open up to her.
Wow, just underneath, it's 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Thank you.
It's the great speaker is
No,
what
I
it
guess
is.
it must be. Timed it well.
I think we might have another 3-minuter coming up here pretty soon. Yeah, okay. Next, Ms. Sophia Ramirez in support of Rachel Kirkland. As a member of this community, a high schooler, and an athlete, I feel that it is very important that the school board has members who can connect with their youth and the rest of the community. With great confidence, I can say that Rachel Kirkland fulfills the role of being able to connect to the entire community, especially the kids, teenagers, and whoever else. It is in the school board's best interest to reappoint Rachel Kirkland. My name is Sophia Ramirez. I am a sophomore at Manassas Park High School, and I've lived in this community for 5 years. I worked very hard in school, and I plan to attend a 4-year university after high school to major in criminology. My education has always been a top priority in life, with roots from my parents. My parents are first-generation immigrants from Honduras and El Salvador. They have always worked hard themselves and want me to have what they could not, which is mainly a good education. Given they have little education, they are not able to help me much when it comes to my education. Mrs. Kirkland had most definitely provided me resources and additional help for when the time comes to apply to college, scholarships, and anything related to after high school education. Without her, I would not have the resources I have right now and would have a harder time when it comes to the process of going to college. In addition, Mrs. Kirkland shows that she cares about the students at Manassas Park, especially those who are less fortunate. She has helped me and so many other students at this school who don't know where to reach out for help. She has taken many of us to college fairs, given us tutoring options for online school during this pandemic, and she has introduced us to classes at Nova to take for college credit. She is able to connect with students so effortlessly and provide them with the support and the resources they need. As an athlete, it is incredibly difficult to find the energy and the time to do all the additional research for resources. Mrs. Kirkland's main goal is to see students like me to succeed in life after high school. The school board would be incredibly lucky, and it would be in their best interest to reappoint Rachel Kirkland as a member. Mrs. Kirkland has earned her spot in the school board by directly helping students at Manassas Park who don't know where to start. She plays an incredibly important role in my life as well as others. Thank you for your time and consideration. Let me just take a little drink here. Mr. Eric Meyer in support of Rachel Kirkland. Good evening. My name is Eric Meyer, and I live in Manassas Park since 2001. My daughters attend the middle and high schools here in town. One of Rachel's sons is a classmate of one of my daughters. Our families have known one another for more than a dozen years, and it has been a pleasure as well as very entertaining. When you spend time with her, you quickly learn that she's bright and genuine, but also hilarious. No doubt this has much to do with why she's a good friend. Rachel is a very well-informed, passionate, and involved parent and citizen, and it's absolutely evident that she cares deeply about the needs of the students. She has demonstrated this time and again over the years. These traits, coupled with her experience, are why she has my recommendation for the school board post. Feel free to email me should you need any additional information. Next, Ms. Heather Guston, in support of Shannon Myers. I've sent this email in support of Shannon Myers for the school board. I have known Shannon for well over a decade. Our two youngest children, Michaela and Ethan, are in the same grade. I really got to know Shannon during the elementary school years through the PTO. Most people run from the PTO, not Shannon. She was there whenever you needed help. The PTO hosted several major events each school year. The skills from her job and her experience were a key part to its success. Plus, she came with 4 extra volunteers, her family. I feel she would be a great addition to the school board. Her love for the community, and especially its schools, is the kind of passion the board should use, a breath of fresh air. Next, Ms. Christy Sanderson, in support of Shannon Myers. I think Shannon Myers would make a wonderful asset to the school board because she's extremely resourceful and she truly cares about Manassas Park schools. With her professional background, she is keenly aware of budgeting and long-term value compared to short-term fixes. Shannon is also very well-spoken and a bright woman who is always willing to work with others to reach a common goal. Thank you for considering Shannon for a role on the school board. Mr. Alfredo Hernandez, in support of Rachel Kirkland. As a member in the community who is an athlete and a student, I believe you should reappoint Mrs. Kirkland to the school board. Mrs. Kirkland has not only helped me out in school-related material, she has also been a great help to my family and others. These past 2 years that Mrs. Kirkland has been in my life has been a blessing. She has taken me to countless college visits and fairs. Also, she has helped many people and families around here during this quarantine as well. The amount of times she has had my back in difficult situations is countless, and she is just as amazing person overall who is always available to help. Mrs. Kirkland is always kind, loving, and helping to anyone around her and helps them have every advantage they can. First, Mrs. Kirkland has not only helped me out in school-related material, but she has helped me out in so many ways. For example, with my family problems. I have had a problem with my parents that is personal, but speaking to Mrs. Kirkland and her giving the best advice has helped me get through that problem. She always checked up on me no matter what. Every day she was checking up on me and always made sure I was doing okay. Mrs. Kirkland has shown me to be authentic and to not be faking a personality smile every day when there is unlimited amount of things to be happy about. She always taught me to not complain because it could always be worse. Mrs. Kirkland has also brought happiness to not only me, but my friends as well. We all dearly love Mrs. Kirkland, and she has a special place in our hearts and has made us feel like we are special, wanted, and appreciated. In school-related material, she has given me so many resources and has given me links to learn and enhance my learning experience during quarantine. Mrs. Kirkland has also helped many families during this lockdown. This lockdown has made many families have no income and make no money, so they need food or some type of supplies to be helped out with. Mrs. Kirkland has donated so many supplies and other things to other families who need it, and she has also helped my church by donating food and other supplies. Mrs. Kirkland has always been a blessing to everyone around her, and she did everything with the kindest heart. Furthermore, Mrs. Kirkland has always been like a second mother to me. Mrs. Kirkland has always been there for me no matter what the circumstance was. She was always there to protect and defend me when times were tough. Mrs. Kirkland has also attended many of my athletic events in track and also attended my artistic events for marching band and for symphonic band.
Mayor, that's 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay, 3 minutes, I have to stop reading. Next, Ms. Margaret Park, in support of Shannon Myers. Good afternoon. I wanted to send a letter of recommendation for Shannon Myers for a position on the MPCS School Board. I have known Shannon for the past 6 years. In that time, I have learned that Shannon has a commitment, passion, and loyalty to Manassas Park. Similar to my family, Shannon started out in Manassas Park in a starter home. Her family could have easily upgraded to a new area and moved out of Manassas Park. But just as my family did, the Myers family had to put down roots and wanted to make Manassas Park their home. Shannon has never hesitated to get involved in and around Manassas Park. Most Friday nights in the fall, Shannon can be seen at the home football games for her son and/or cheering her daughters on in the marching band. Through the winter months, Shannon is involved with the middle school, high school swim teams. While the Myers children attended the elementary schools, Shannon was the first to volunteer for the PTO and played an integral part in our successful fundraising that helped to support our amazing MPCS staff. On a personal level, I have worked closely with Shannon as part of a member of Shoals Girls. Shoals Girls is an active Manassas area fundraising group for breast cancer research. Shannon is not one to sit idle and always happy to pitch in and help. Shannon is a team player and willing to roll up her sleeves and get to work for Manassas Park. Shannon has an incredible way of listening to both sides of a situation and bringing people to common ground. Her daily job requires her to work with many different people and to engage with people of all backgrounds. Because of that, I find her to be very approachable and fair. Shannon has an amazing understanding of what it takes for young adults to enter into the workforce, and that would be an asset to being a member of the school board. Thank you for taking your time and consideration in having Shannon Myers be a Manassas Park City School Board member. Ms. Kismet Lopez, in support of Shannon Myers. I am writing to you to express my support for Shannon Myers as a candidate for MPCS School Board. I have known Shannon for several years. Our children have grown up together in the community and were sport teammates while attending Manassas Park City Schools, as well as within our Manassas community as members of the Wellington Dolphins swim team. I have seen Shannon firsthand serve our MPHS swim team, taking on leadership roles and helping the coaches support the team. I've also served with Shannon as a board member of the Wellington swim team. I have seen firsthand her passion and dedication to the schools and the community as she actively participates in school and community events and does not hesitate to voice her opinions and takes action in areas where she feels improvements can be made to better serve the children who attend our schools. I think she will be a valuable school board member and stand behind this candidate as member of our Manassas Park City School Board. Ms. Jaleisha Clyburn, in support of Shannon Myers. I am a 20-year resident of the city of Manassas Park. I am also the neighbor of Shannon Myers. For as long as I have known Shannon, she has always been an active parent in school activities where she has come to know the teachers, counselors, and school administrators. Her interest in the success of students and teachers has resulted in her being an active parent who supports our school system. She cares about our community. She has an outstanding team spirit, which is exhibited through her willingness to work with others to achieve goals that have positive outcomes. She's respectful to others and respectfully listens to the opinions of others. She's an effective communicator and has high moral standards. I'm sending this message of support for Shannon Myers to be considered for serving on the City of Manassas Park School Board. I feel she will be a valuable school board member who will be able to bring about positive change in advocating for the success of students, teachers, and others in our community's school system. Ms. Christine Williams, in support of Shannon Myers. We are writing regarding the Manassas Park City Council's call for a new Manassas Park City School Board member nomination. We highly recommend Mrs. Shannon Myers, longtime resident of Manassas Park and active community member. Please see the attached nomination for council's consideration. Thank you, and please reach out with any questions. Ms. Sarah Silber, in support of Shannon Myers. I'm writing this letter in support of Shannon Myers running for the Manassas Park City Schools School Board position. I have taught in Manassas Park for 18 years, and I know that she has been an active supporter of our school system. Shannon is often seen at events, supporting her own children as well as cheering others on. I have also observed her as a supporter and a positive light for our teachers and administration. As a resident of Manassas Park for 22 years, I know that she has witnessed many changes in our school system. Not only would Shannon bring a fresh perspective with innovative ideas, she brings her own professional experience of 20 years as a recruitment and retention specialist. Shannon will be able to offer and support our need for highly qualified teacher retention. The teacher turnover rate has a direct impact on student learning and continuity of instruction. Welcoming a new perspective and insight is what our school board needs. Please consider Shannon for this position as part of our school board. Mr. Stephen Benilla, in support of Rachel Kirkland. I hope all is well with you. My name is Stephen Benilla, and I am one of Mrs. Kirkland's former students. I'm writing on the behalf of Mrs. Kirkland's reappointment and how I believe she is strongly committed to the students in our community. Ms. Kirkland has always had students as her top priority. She wants every student to have every advantage regardless of where they live, who their parents are, or where they came from. Mrs. Kirkland is humble, generous, and dedicated towards all students. I would be aware, since I spent the majority of my childhood with her. Before I resided in Manassas Park, Mrs. Kirkland was my librarian at Weems Elementary School. Not many know this, but she sparked my love of reading. I vividly remember being extremely excited our class would be heading to the library. Even when I was having a rough day, I would always look forward to Mrs. Kirkland reading us a story. She has always had a special love for her students. She cared, and she wanted all of us to succeed. Nevertheless, I strongly believe she still has that willpower and dedication. Mrs. Kirkland has always had the motivation to help others. As a second-generation student coming from immigrant parents, and as a firstborn, it was difficult for me to understand without any proper guidance. She had provided me with many materials to push me in the right direction, taking me to college fairs, suggesting special programs to apply, or overall encouraging me to do well in school. She continuously checks on me and other students, asking how we are in our schoolwork. If there's anything she can do, she's always there when we need her. I deeply admire Mrs. Kirkland for all her hard work and determination. She has helped maintain our schools running perfectly, and I believe she's deserving to serve as part of the school board. Ms. Christine Gardner, in support of Shannon Myers. I just wanted to say I have known Ms. Shannon Myers, for several years, and I believe that she will be a positive addition to the school board. She volunteered for the MPHS swim team for many years that I also volunteered for the last 5 years, and she has always been supportive parents of her 3 children in Manassas Park School District. I love her unbiased, positive energy, opinion, and her love for the Manassas Park community. Ms. Kelly Alexander, in support of Shannon Myers. This letter serves to support Shannon Myers in her candidacy for school board. Shannon Myers has been a member of the Manassas Park community for over 15 years, and my family and I have had the pleasure of being acquainted with her for approximately 8 years. Shannon has a willingness and a determination to better our school system and our community in any way possible. She's volunteered in numerous capacities in our community over the years and has always shown an interest in helping the schools succeed, whether it be in academics, test scores, recruiting, or athletics. She's loyal, trustworthy, hardworking, intelligent, and genuinely cares about our schools in every regard. I have total confidence in Shannon's ability and commitment and believe that she would be a great asset to the Manassas Park School Board. She brings a needed fresh set of perspectives and knowledge to the table and truly cares about the school system as a whole. Ms. Harmony Briscoe, in support of Shannon Myers. My name is Harmony Briscoe. I live at 9300 Paul Drive, Manassas Park, Virginia. I'm excitedly supporting Mrs. Shannon Myers in her candidacy for the Manassas Park City School Board. I have personally experienced her relentless school advocacy for the last 3 years as an MPCS teacher, homeowner, and Manassas Park parent. I firmly believe she unprecedentedly qualifies as a school board member. She's dedicated, level-headed, and works well with a wide variety of people. She takes the time to research the school's needs pertinent to our particular district, fully understands the issues she's working to improve. Not only that, but Shannon is willing to make the changes necessary to support our ever-evolving town and school. One of the things I have always admired about Shannon is the enormous amount of passion and dedication that she brings to every task at hand. As a Manassas Park City School parent, our city schools are a topic she's truly engaged in at every level. School officials, administrators, and teachers at every MPCS school from Cougar to the high school have experienced her regularly in various volunteer, meeting, and advocacy capacities. Our children and their well-being is one of her greatest interests. As a resident of Manassas Park for 22 years, Shannon has invested herself in the improvement of not only our schools, but our town. She continues to work tirelessly collecting the thoughts of parents, teachers, and other citizens about what they feel is working and what can be revitalized in our schools. She will be very open to hearing from a wide variety of sources and make recommendations with our parents and children as her sole interest. As a Manassas Park City School parent myself, I know she will be especially sensitive to the concerns of all of our parents, teachers, staff, and it is for all of these reasons that I hope you will join me in giving Shannon Myers your support for school board representation. Brian Pace, in support of Rachel Kirkland. I saw the notice for the public hearing for school board appointment to be held this evening. I wanted to add my 2 cents in favor of retaining and celebrating Rachel Kirkland in her current role. Rachel is so proactive in reaching out to me as the co-founder and former president of Equality Prince William to find ways where the city of Manassas Park could be more inclusive in your policies, actions, and behavior. In a time where lots of people shied away, Rachel showed real leadership in making sure that all students, teachers, and staff in Manassas Park City Schools are respected and where equal opportunity to education is not only tolerated but celebrated. I hope tonight is a ringing endorsement of Ms. Kirkland's leadership, and it deserves no lesser treatment. Okay, well, those were 22 wonderful, absolutely magnificent letters of support. Isn't that heartwarming?
Yeah.
Great job, Jeanette, reading all this.
Well, no, it is heartwarming to see the love and the affection that folks have for the candidate of their choice. I think that's wonderful.
I think
Are there any other, Lena? No. That's it, 22. Okay.
I was going to say, I think that's more than we've probably had at any
Uh-huh.
school board, when people have come up. I think that's more
Yeah.
than we've had on any other year I've been.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it definitely shows a lot of interest.
That's a lot. Well, with that, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The vote will occur on May 19th. Is that correct, Lena? Yes, May 19th. Okay. Okay, moving on, we have an information item, DSS Prince William Regional Strategy for Serving the Homeless During the COVID-19 Crisis.
Do I need to move, or is it okay?
So everyone at home, can you guys see the slides now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Randy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, just let me know when you want me to flip slides.
Yay, Randy.
Will do. Good evening, Mayor and members of the governing body. How are you?
Hey, Randy.
Welcome,
Randy.
Randy, welcome.
We miss you in person.
Yes, we do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, though, for allowing me to present remotely. It's a nice feature, so I appreciate that.
Oh, we got the slides.
Um,
Here in the-
I'm here tonight to shed light on what the area is doing on the homeless population with regards to the COVID-19. Laszlo, you can go ahead and switch slides, please. Here we go. Thank you. Real quick, I just want to let you know that the Continuum of Care is a regional planning body that coordinates housing and services and funding for the homeless population. This group isn't new, isn't a result of COVID-19. It's an ongoing effort. It is comprised of local and county governments, nonprofit providers, faith-based organizations, and citizens at large, and outreach organizations. And pretty much we determine what needs the homeless population has, and a requirement of funding through HUD requires a locality to have a COC. It just happens to be that Prince William County DSS acts as the fiscal agent. A few years ago, it was Northern Virginia Family Service. For whatever reason, it switched over, and Prince William County DSS became the primary on that role. So again, I just wanted to come before you to let you know what is being done to serve the population during this response. Next slide, Laszlo. The model is based off a Seattle King County best practice model. As we all know, COVID-19 hit Seattle first and the hardest. Gave us a few weeks to see what we needed to do here. And with that being said, the homeless population has a need. And so we realized that a targeted population could possibly be positive homeless individuals needing hospitalization, COVID-19 exposed needing quarantine, and then those needing social distance for variable reasons to include their age as well as conditions that were specifically identified by the CDC. We were looking at those as well who were age 60 and older. Next slide, please. So back on April 14th, the funding that was awarded to our area was brought in front of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors, and they went ahead and approved the presented plan to serve Prince William County, City of Manassas, and City of Manassas Park. Here you can see the funding breakdown of what was allocated. Next slide, please. Currently, there is one hotel here in Dumfries that is being utilized to house the homeless population. As of Friday, they had 17 individuals who either tested positive for COVID or met one of those other category groups that were being housed at the lodge. We do have Western hotel locations set up. However, there hasn't been a need for that service yet, so we're focusing all the efforts at this one Ecno Lodge in Dumfries on Dumfries Road. Next slide, please.
Randy, may I ask, you said there's nobody on the west, there's nobody on the West End that qualifies in one of the categories?
No, it just, we're trying to keep it at one central location, and right now it was decided to utilize that hotel first There are hotels that have agreed to set up a COVID hotel shelter on the western side. We just haven't had a need yet. We're housing anybody, transporting anybody over to that one location. It's meeting the needs so far.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yep. So as Prince William County DSS is the lead agency, they are providing primary care at the shelter. They're running 24-hour, 7 shifts with coverage breaks. Duties include safety, checking on the participants that are there, documenting and reporting any concerns. Next slide, please. And this is the breakdown of the admissions process. So any resident in the greater Prince William area who is experiencing homeless either before or after COVID is able to call the coordinated entry system. This provides referral for the greater Prince William area for those who may be homeless, about to become homeless, and it now includes the referral for any COVID-19 positive requirements. Local hospitals and urgent cares are also being provided the information. So if a citizen comes in and displays any COVID-related symptoms or issues, they're referring them to the coordinated entry system. Again, the ages here are broke down and the requirements that are needed. I'd also like to point out that the MAP clinic has played a huge role. They're providing fantastic case management services to these individuals on site at the hotel. They've been a huge plus. It's great to have them here over at the community center with us. I believe that they're only out of the MAP clinic now a couple days a week because their efforts are being focused on this initiative. So nice kudos to them for helping out during this, this pandemic. Next slide, please. Before we go into questions, I wanted to point out that Manassas Park is a small community, and we do not have as many homeless individuals or known homeless individuals as Prince William County per se. However, we have set up accommodations for any Manassas Park resident that falls into this situation to receive services. This is a united front. The minute they get a referral, a call from a Manassas Park resident, they're going to directly refer that individual to me. So I myself, along with the family services supervisor, can connect with that individual, provide case management. Pretty much case management starts the minute they come in. We're looking at what we can do for them to get healthy and get out, and hopefully get out to some type of permanent housing. A lot of our homeless individuals we only see every 6 months to a year. That has a lot to do with their benefits. Typically, recertifications and renewals are only every 6 months or a year. So that's when they tend to come in, when they realize their benefits has stopped. And since the governor has put a hold on closing of any SNAP and Medicaid cases, we have not been contacted by any of our homeless individuals. However, they do have access to caseworker phone numbers. They all have cell phones. They all have a way to connect with us if need be. And I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Randy. Let's see if the folks at home have a question. Councilmember Machado, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Randy. Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. So, is this the funding that you showed us is per year?
It's a one-time funding that was released by the governor. Laszlo, would you mind going back to that slide? I think it might be slide 5 that had the breakdown. There we go. Yeah. This is part of the homeless crisis response that the governor issued for funding strictly for COVID-affected homeless individuals. The other funding sources here are donations, well, not donations, contributions from the Area Agency on Aging, as well as the Older Americans Act and the Virginia Housing Solutions Program, along with a proffer that the county has. So all that together equals the $613,534 to be able to put this initiative forth.
Is there any Manassas Park DSS employee working with Prince William DSS on this effort?
Just me right now. I've been the go-to person. You know that we're small, so I try to take on a lot of the extra initiatives so my staff can focus on casework. So I attend the governance for the COC. I'm part of the DANA, and I'm also regular attendance for the board meetings. So I make sure that Manassas Park voice is heard in these meetings and vice versa. And like I mentioned before, if we do have a Manassas Park resident who comes into this type of situation, we will work hands-on providing the case management for that citizen. It would not be a Prince William County DSS worker. Once they took the call, their job would stop when they referred that on to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Randy.
welcome.
Councilmember Sendejas, do you have a question?
Yes, hi, Randy.
Hi, how are you?
Can you?
Good, thank you.
So my question is about people who might get evicted or are evicted. Do they qualify for services?
Well, they wouldn't qualify for this specific service because this is just if they are COVID vulnerable, COVID positive or needing to be quarantined. But the coordinated service entry, the regular COC coordinated entry system, is for referrals of those who are homeless or about to become homeless. The COVID-19 response is an added initiative that the COC is overseeing. And coming up, well, right now there should be no evictions. I don't know what will change, in the next several days with the governor making changes. But I can tell you that there is talk of a CARES Act block grant that's coming out. Chris Himes and I sat on an open forum, like a question and answers, and that funding is going to be strictly for housing for Prince William, Manassas City, and Manassas Park residents. That will be on a first-come basis. They're expecting that funding will be released June or July time. So Chris and I are going to do our due diligence as soon as that hits the ground running, that we get that information out on social media and to city staff to let our residents know that there is that opportunity to help with rent and utilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilmember Shoemaker, did you have a question?
Thank you, Randy. Can you say again, you said that all SNAP and I don't know which the other program was that you Medicaid?
Medicaid, yeah. There's been a directive from the governor that until, he says everything is on hold. No Medicaid and no SNAP cases are to be canceled for anyone.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Any,
I
do you have a follow-up?
No, it was just
Yeah.
that I missed the second
Yeah,
one.
okay. Do you have any questions, anyone? Okay. Brandy, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of March 17th, April 14th, and April 28th, 2020, and designation of surplus equipment.
I had one question. Lana, did you get my corrections I sent you? I sent an email yesterday. Okay.
Just send them to me, that's
Okay. I thought I sent them to her. That's why I'm asking. But I
Okay,
have.
okay.
There are a few just.
Do you want to read them out loud?
There was a spot. Glad I brought this. On page I had it at page 15, it was,
I hate to ask you to get a little closer to the microphone so folks
okay.
can hear you.
On page 23, I think there's a spot where it should say Medicare instead of Medicaid. There's a spot on page 15. When we were talking about the library naming rights, I believe I said that they needed to have a connection to the city. And you wrote that there was needed to have a connection to the library, but I think I actually said a connection to the city, but I'll ask for you if I said the other, then leave it, but.
No, you did.
And then, oh, that's on a different agenda item. Yep, I think those are the only two.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we move on to, there's no unfinished business, so we'll move to new business. That would be community development approval of task order number 6 to Julius Branscombe for milling and paving.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, citizens, guests. As you know, a lot of the pavement is in various stages of deterioration around the city. We carry 2 capital improvement line items to address necessary improvements in our public right-of-way. One is called street improvements and resealing. The other one is called additional street projects. This year, we have contacted Julius Branscombe with a list of some of our worst streets and received estimates for 3 street sections that total over $200,000. We spend nearly $400,000 every year, slightly more in some years, in what is actually attributable to our VDOT urban maintenance out of our regular operating streets budget. However, they give us $730,000 approximately every year, and it is our duty to spend that or else risk some sort of unknown punishment from the state for not spending our urban and maintenance funds. So it's very important that we try to max out these 2 line items so that we can demonstrate that we've spent the full $730,000 every year. So in our goal to spend both of these line items, we've produced these 3 street sections with these estimates. The estimates come in around $212,000, slightly under $212,000, but as you are all aware, we're actually billed on final quantities and measurements. So we need to carry some sort of a contingency to make sure that we don't go over the governing body's approval on the spending. So we're actually asking for a 10% contingency, which brings the total that we're asking for up to $233,000, $33.24. We are going to have to recommend taking it out of both of those line items. At the beginning of the year, there was enough budget in the street improvements and resealing line item to cover this entire operation. However, we did have that surprise invoice from the 2016 paving that we requested and paid. Now, we did get that money back already from PRTC, at least what we were entitled to. So we got $85,000 of that back from PRTC Motor Fuels Tax Fund. However, we haven't made the budget amendment yet to correct this line item. So we're recommending that we take what is still available in the street improvements and resealing line item and take the rest out of the additional streets projects line item. So just to clarify why we're taking this out of 2 line items.
Thank
Are there any
you.
questions about this?
Thank you, Calvin. May we assume that this is NVTA funding?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
No, this,
No.
this will come out of our budget. We are given this money from the state,
DTB.
and we can cover it
Okay.
with our MBTA local funds.
Okay.
So this is not a 70%, but an MBTA local fund offset.
Yeah, it's
The
still,
M-
it's MVTA funding.
It's
So
MVTA
anytime you
30%
see on the capital budget, the transportation projects, it's either going to be NVTA, PRTC, or VDOT. For the operating budget for transportation, that's where we're using the annual VDOT maintenance. But to Calvin's point, it's the 30%
30%
MBTA, not the
funding.
70% MBTA.
No, it can't be the 70%.
Correct, exactly.
Absolutely not. No, I think it's helpful, perhaps for the folks at home, if I give just a very brief description of the transportation funding that the city does have access to, and that there are limitations on this. The city can receive transportation funding from the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. They have several revenue streams that come in to the authority that were passed and legislated by the General Assembly. When funding goes to the NVTA, it's divided in a 70-30 split. 70% funds are used for projects that are approved by the NVTA. The 30% funding is directed to the localities, depending on how much tax is collected within the locality. There's also funding that comes to the city that is from the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, and that is through the motor fuels tax. Now, the PRTC administers those funds, and likewise, there's limitations on those as well. Because there's restrictions on these transportation funds, they are treated essentially like an enterprise fund. The funds cannot be used, for example, to increase our reserve funding, can't be used to purchase, for example, IT equipment, cannot be used to repair the swimming pools. So therefore, this has no impact on the general fund, but they are treated, those funds are treated like an enterprise fund used specifically for transportation-related capital expenditures. So I just thought that might be helpful to have an idea of how restricted these funds are, but we are very, very fortunate to have these funds. Yeah.
Can I just make one caveat too?
Yes.
I said MBTA, PRDC, and VDOT for capital. Over the last year, we've been receiving the grantor's tax also directly instead of via NVTA 30%. So I just want to caveat that that's part of the transportation for capital. Next year, though, it's going to go back.
Do you have, for the
Yeah.
folks at home, do you have on the tip of your tongue, the grantor tax that has come in? Because that's
Oh.
been very helpful also.
Let me pull that up.
Yeah, that's been wonderful.
I can tell you last year the total.
Yeah.
Let's see.
May I ask a question
Yes,
while he's
yes.
looking? Calvin, have you said that that we're taking from the line items, is the 154,473 number from street improvement, does that exhaust that line item? I don't know if you heard me.
Is your question specifically about the street improvements and resealing line item?
Right, does this expenditure, the 154,473, does that zero out basically that line item for the year?
Yes, I believe so, because remember we had paid slightly over $90,000 to Branscombe early in the year for a 2016 bill. Now we are trying to correct that with a budget amendment, but since we haven't corrected it yet, we were advising that we take the remainder at this time out of the additional streets project.
Okay.
It does exactly zero out. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to
Okay.
make sure that we're using all the money. Now, do we have, on the additional streets projects line item, is there more funding, or was there more money in that account beyond the 78,560?
Slightly more, about 20.
Yes, there actually is, and we're on top of that because we have Branscombe's attention. They're actually very excited to be working. I guess a lot of their contracts with Manassas and some of their other jurisdictions have been put on hold because of the crisis, so they're trying to keep their crews working. So it seems that right now we have their total attention, so I can't say that this will be the last paving item that we bring forth this year. If we feel that we can get it done before the fiscal year ends, we'll certainly be bringing some smaller segments forward so that we can get as much as we can out of our paving budget this year.
That's awesome. I just want to make sure we're using all the available funds, and because we have, extensive street needs and in terms of paving and things like that, I just want to make sure that we're.
And we're blessed to have the transportation dollars come in to the city.
One
Yeah.
last question to
We're
Calvin.
good.
Yeah.
One last.
He
one
has
last-
one more question,
One question to
Calvin.
you is that you said we're going to get the reimbursement. Is that you said from PRTC?
I was speaking to that 2016 project. We've already received that. That 2016 project that we paid out in January, we've already received the reimbursement from PRTC for that.
And where is that money now parked? Is that in the PRTC fund or is it somewhere else?
That transfers into the city through a revenue line item in the capital projects fund called PRTC Motor Fuels Tax Reimbursements.
Okay.
So that money comes back into the capital fund.
But is it part of our PRTC line item that we're drawing from, every year, or is that a separate chunk of money that's not going to be part of that?
No, that was removed from our encumbered balance. And as we create new resolutions to spend, that money shows as an encumbered balance because we've resolved that we're going to spend it. So this money simply disappears from our already encumbered balance and comes to the city's account.
Okay,
so the trust fund is already, if you look at the unencumbered balance, you'll see no change because of this transaction. If you look at the previously encumbered balance, you'll see that previously encumbered balance has now gone down by $85,000.
Okay, I guess my question kind of was, though, is that basically this pot of money, which we've already spent and reimbursed and moved around, but it basically becomes re-available to us to apply for, say, another repaving, even if it's down into FY21, we can now spend the $85,000 again on another project, correct?
Well, not as a practice of budget, but yes, the city is $85,000 cash richer. But as a budget practice, no, that would be hurting our cash position to spend another $85,000 again.
Did we spend city cash? Is that what you're saying the first time, and that's why it's coming?
We spent city cash the first time, so if we spent it again, we'd be doubling up on the budget.
They work on a reimbursement basis.
So we put.
Yeah, it's a reimbursement.
Effectively, we put city cash, and now we're getting the cash back.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's just so I was clear about whether it's sitting in PRTC where we could spend it again or not. Okay.
So the answer for the grantor's tax for the first 6 months of this fiscal year, because last year we didn't get it for a full fiscal year, $102,000 for a 6-month period. So
Okay.
you're looking at between usually $180,000 to over $200,000 per year.
That's significant.
It is. Hopefully, now that they're taking it back, we still see it through MVTA 30%, but I'm crossing my fingers. It was beneficial for us to get the grantor's tax directly compared
I'm
to
hoping
previous.
that it will even out,
Yeah.
after their analysis is done. Are there any other questions? Hasib, do you have a question? Justin? No. Councilmember Machado, do you have a question?
Hi, Calvin. Yes. When is this project to be scheduled? When is this scheduled for?
They didn't seem to have anything on the schedule, so as soon as we tell them tomorrow morning that the work was approved tonight, if you vote to approve it, they will try to get us on the schedule as soon as weather permits.
As it's storming outside.
Okay. Councilmember Sendejas, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there's no other questions, the staff recommendation is that the governing body approve task order number 6 to Branscombe Incorporated in the amount of $211,848.40, along with a contingency of $21,184.84, for a total amount not to exceed $233,033.24, and to direct the city manager to sign task order number 6, subject to final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
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 Becker?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Calvin.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 8B, that would be the school division budget. FY21.
So in your packet, you have what was sent out last weekend on what we thought was the VRS and VML increase in contributions for the schools of $146,000. I handed out to you all. Let me know if you didn't get it. I'll just give you this one.
Yeah.
Did I leave it there? Oh, okay. I thought I handed out. You'll see the updated one before you with the updated figure that was sent last night to us for the school board. So you kind of have those two options or any other options you want to consider. But I wanted to provide you all the two resolutions based off of the initial intent that was provided with 146 and now with the updated numbers provided last night.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions? No? Councilmember Javed, do you have any questions?
No,
Okay.
nothing.
Councilmember Sendejas, do you have any questions?
No question. Thank you.
Councilmember Machado?
Yeah, I just have a comment, Mayor, Madam Mayor, that the city is providing the schools the best funding that we are able to do, or the city is able to do from all our resources. It's one of our top priorities every year that we discuss the budget, the city budget.
Yes. Thank you. I agree. We do the best we can. We do the best we can for the schools and really for all the departments. And this, by paying the increase for the VRS not covered by state funds, we are doing for the schools what we're doing for all the departments in the city. So it's a fairness issue.
Can I read because I
Yes.
didn't read it actually out loud, the actual numbers now, the updated numbers?
Yes, please.
Because what went out over the weekend to the public was
Yeah.
one number. So the changes now for the total school funds, it's now up to $408,561. That includes a $12,499,371 increase or total funding from the city. The city contribution from FY20 increased by $167,121 in FY21 to assist the schools with their VRS and VML increases. That is an increase of $20,799 from what went out this past Friday in the agenda.
Could you read the city contribution again, please? $12,499,371.
Hold on, let me go back to it.
371.
371.
Yes.
So my question, I do have questions.
Yes.
So my question is, what are the restrictions or revenue on the $587,000 in extra state revenue that's coming to the city, or coming to the school division, excuse me?
So I believe, Dr. McDade, are you on, or Krista?
Yes, Mr. Caldwell, we are here, both Dr. McDade and I, but he has asked me to go ahead and speak to these questions. We addressed the issue of restrictions on funding last night at the school board meeting. All of the funds that the schools receive from the state, with the exception of sales tax, are restricted for specific purposes. So the only portion of the $587,000 increase that would be unrestricted is $100,000.
Is that 100,000?
And that's the projected increase in sales tax. Of course, at this point in time, with the volatility of the economy, we're not certain that those numbers are valid.
Perhaps you can comment on this, Ms. Kelly. My understanding is that even the 587 or whatever the state has indicated they will provide, there's a certain level of uncertainty with that because the state has not done their analysis yet. Could you comment on that?
That's correct to a degree. The majority of the funding that we receive comes through the general fund in terms of standards of quality dollars. We feel pretty confident in those numbers. However, the school division does receive about $3 million in funding through lottery funds, and the projections for the lottery funds are declining at this point in time. Participation has not been at the levels that we saw prior to the shutdown. And of course, if those funds are then not available, the state will have to determine how much schools may end up being cut by any losses to that fund, or if there is money in the general fund to cover any of those losses. So you are correct, Madam Mayor, that of the approximately $590,000 that the school is receiving, all of that goes into question at some point if the economy does not get moving again.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question?
No.
Do you have a follow-up?
Well, I mean, that's, and I'm sorry that I couldn't make the meeting. I had another meeting last night at 7 o'clock, so I wasn't able to watch you live.
Can you speak closer to
Yeah, you know, just for the record, I did email Dr. McDade individually on Sunday this question, and I didn't receive an answer. Or maybe he didn't know at the time. I got an answer about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So I wanted to know, I wanted everybody on our side to know, as I did pose this question in advance. This is not a gotcha question. I asked this specific question on email on Sunday. I guess I'm how many new positions will this budget fund?
At this point in time, as was discussed last night, and I understand, Councilman Shoemaker, that you were unable to watch, but I just want to reference that we are providing you the same information that we provided to our board and anyone who did watch last night for consistency. We currently have a $1.5 million gap in our budget after making revisions to the state funds that projected city funds courtesy of the resolution that Mr. Palco had originally provided. We appreciate your consideration of the additional $20,000 that fills a small portion of that $1.5 million gap, but any filling is appreciated. My belief is that this budget will result in 6 new positions that are required based on the staffing ratios that are needed at the secondary campus. While our overall enrollment is projected to decline again, this enrollment decline is really occurring at the elementary campus, not at the secondary campus. Our single largest kindergarten class will roll up into the middle school next year as 6th graders. And as such, in order to maintain the mandated 1:24 ratio, we will need to hire additional English teacher, math teacher, and social studies teacher. These changes were changes, at least the social studies position was definitely planned last year. We hired the science teacher component last year and bringing the social studies teacher on this year. But further analysis of the numbers, because the middle school is also the only school that grew in population this year, within year, after we started in September. So they have some additional challenges to overcome with those staffing ratios. So that takes care of 3 positions. The 4th position is an English teacher at the high school. Again, that mandated 24-to-1 ratio for English classes at the secondary level. The high school as well will increase. The incoming freshman class is larger than the anticipated exiting class, causing again the high school to increase in population while our elementary school is declining. Along with that change, we have some students who will be in the high school in the special education program, and in order to maintain the appropriate staffing and case ratios, particularly for our community-based instruction classes. We will need to hire an additional special education teacher and special education instructional assistant. So I believe that at the end of the day, those positions that are all mandated by the state, and while there has been some restriction in or reduction in staffing ratio changes that they planned to implement, there has not been any changes in any staffing ratios that are currently a part of legislation.
Okay. So then, I guess my question is, you know, a comment that I've made before, with the declining enrollment overall, I understand what you just said in terms of adding positions in places where they're growing, but why aren't there offsetting reductions in areas where there are less?
There are offsetting reductions. You asked me what new positions would exist. Those are the new positions that would exist. We are currently offsetting with a intent to not fill one homeroom position at Cougar and 2 homeroom positions at the elementary school. Those are not RIPs. They're simply reductions through attrition. And we would have been able to further reduce the number of homerooms at Cougar, except that with our increasing free reduced meal eligible population, we are required to meet even more stringent staffing targets in K through 3 in order to meet the K3 class size reduction program.
Okay, so then there's an overall growth of 3 positions, is that correct?
Yes, with those 3 reductions in teachers, there would be an overall growth of 3 positions.
Okay. Are there additional opportunities at MPE to reduce teachers in terms of loss of population there?
No, sir, because we still have to meet the K3 class size reduction, so that 3rd grade class is still restricted, and that poses restrictions on not only the 3rd grade homeroom teachers, but to a degree, all of the teachers in the building from a building-wide staffing ratio. We have looked at the possibility of reducing those numbers, but we get really, really close to the caps, and we would potentially result in having a late hire in August if we had 1 or 2 more students than what we're currently projecting walk through the door.
Okay.
So 1 or 2 students could push you up to the requirement of hiring another teacher? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, because we have to meet those class size ratios depending on where those students come in, right? If they all came in 3rd grade, then we could potentially be over the maximum. And again, that depends on more than just the fact that the students exist. If they're in special education, if they're in ESOL, the schedule is structured in order to address those differing needs, impacts their homeroom placement as well. So it would be a very small handful of students that could move us over the mark.
Okay, thank you.
Are employees with this new, I'll call this the new budget because it's different than the last one, are employees slated for raises?
At this point in time, that has not been addressed by the school board. We provided them with the potential areas for reductions for next year. The largest area of potential for reduction to cover the $1.5 million, of course, as I pointed out last night, was changes to salaries. So I would assume that the salary assumptions will definitely change.
What about your capital projects?
Again, that's up to our school board to establish the priorities. I know that we have talked at length about the possibility of removing those capital projects. One of the two items that still remain in the budget as true capital projects, because there is spending listed for copier replacement, but that's not truly capital. The fuel is one item. The other is the roof at the high school. Unfortunately, during the food distribution, not today, but a week ago, I was able to film a portion of the high school roof that appeared to have a tarp flapping. There's no tarp up there, so that would be a portion of the roof. It will depend upon Mr. Simpson's investigation as to what that was and what will be needed, whether it can be a quick fix or whether this ultimately requires a full-on repair to make sure that that roof is structurally sound. So unfortunately, as I would love to answer your question more definitively, I don't believe I can at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Krista. No, I think that was probably all the questions I had for you. Thank you for the information. I do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Questions? Vice Mayor Banks? Questions?
No, not at this
Okay.
time.
I have one. I don't have a question. I have a concern. And that is that in terms of equity, that's why I asked specifically what the question for Krista, because she's the person that was available, was whether there were going to be raises for school board employees. And it's an issue because our employees are just as deserving. And if we approve this number and we do the flat budget, our employees are not going to get a raise. And I'm concerned that our employees are watching and they're going to say, you gave more money to the school board and they got raises and we did not. And again, because this has happened multiple times in the past where our employees have not received raises while school board employees have. And we've tried to do our best to support our school division. But in that process, we've created inequities between employee groups. And, you know, when I was watching the police department video, 55% turnover in 2 years. That's unsustainable. I mean, I don't care what the percentage is, but we can't maintain an effective police force if we are turning over a majority of our frontline officers every 2 years. You know, that's probably the worst department right now, but there are other departments. You know, we are being held together by employees who are going above and beyond at home. Most employees right now are working from home, you know, to maintain city operations to the best of their ability. And I am concerned that if we lock this number in, there's no money left for our employees. And we can't keep saying, you're doing a great job, but we can't afford to give you a raise. They've had one 3% raise in 11 years. If we're asking our employees to make Manassas Park a career, if you've now spent 11, 12 years, you're now 40% of your career, or a third of your career here, and you've received 13% on where you started in 2008. And that's my concern. With all due respect, the school board did go some years with no raises as well. We all did. But they've received raises in other years when our employees went without. And I know that I've
I believe
said,
that's true, Mr. Shoemaker, but I believe the converse is also true, and I believe that your date of 2008 is inaccurate because I'm aware that when I took over this position, the school board was furloughing employees and did not give any raises, and in that year, the city council actually did provide raises for their staff. While I can very much appreciate the situation, The funding models are different, and I believe that the term of equity that was applied here in this particular situation was that the City Council was providing funding for increases in VRS rate premiums, and that that would be an equitable means of providing funding for the school division. If in fact you don't approve the flat model and do approve the 2% model, then I wonder if the city will consider revising their number for the schools to the 1.5% number that is in that model and move forward with a $184,000 transfer as opposed to the 160 number.
Thank you. So again, to the 5 of us and 2 people at home that have votes on this, I'm concerned that we go another year and we're going to lose the faith of our employees. They're going to say, well, we've heard this before, and we've heard it again, and we've heard it again. You know, we're going to come out of COVID, and people are going to make decisions that they're not going to come back because they're going to find a better offer. They've had lots of time at home to think about this, and I know I say this every year, but somebody has to stick up for them. We're expecting people to be on call at Public Works 24 hours a day that make $31,000, $32,000, $33,000 a year. We're expecting people at social services that are be on call, doing rotation on call, and being $8,000 and $10,000 under our neighbors at Manassas. And I think Prince William is even beyond that. I don't have the number in front of me. I think the one position is 12,000 is the difference. You know, we've got people right here in City of Manassas. We have people in Commissioner of Revenue, in Treasurer's Office, who have been here 10 years, who still make 30-something thousand. You know, we're expecting them to bring in the revenue to run our city, to go out and go to tax and pull all the revenue that's owed to the city. And they're making $39,000 after 10 years with the city. You know, I know this is a hard time. Every year is a hard time. The last 5 years we've been in a self-imposed recession because of our debt. And I understand that. We've all had to take hard votes about how to spend money in places we can't spend money and percentages we can't give. And not to try to beat this to death, but we have 159 employees who are banking on us. And they've made a commitment to Manassas Park. And I'm afraid if we do this number, there's no money left at the end for us, for our employees. So I get my last question is, Lazo, if we approve the $499,371 transfer to the city or to the school division, is there money left for our employees?
Well, there's not even, like, if you go the flat budget model, right? So the initial numbers, these numbers that we're talking about tonight are between the flat budget and the 2% model, right? Mm-hmm. So it's even that small amount, like if you were just to bring the school contribution down to the flat, you're not saving that much. You're not able to do a pay increase with just that much. So while I completely support your position in terms of supporting our need to support our employees and take every possible measure, I don't think from the contribution to the schools you're going to find the number. From the change from the flat model to what we're talking about here, you're only, you know, I could pull up the number here. Hold on, from the original.
Is it 50,000?
Yeah.
50,000.
That sounds about right, but
Is the PD lost?
yeah. So it's
118 in the flat
lost 4
model.
people, and the fire department lost 2.
An increase.
So keeping that
I
in
guess my
mind.
concern is health insurance is going up 5%.
it is.
So anybody that has a health plan with the city is going to see a net decrease in take-home pay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is there a way for us to at least hold that harmless so that employees aren't making less money after the health insurance?
Yeah, I'd have to calculate the number and come back to you. Again, we're evaluating capital cuts that we can make to help out our employees. We haven't, you know, really looked at it from a fleet standpoint I forgot that I already cut a lot of fleet from the presentation as well, so
I know that
we've
things
already
are kind
reduced a
of
lot.
fluid. I
Yeah.
know that our numbers aren't all solid, so that's why, we start committing to a number tonight that
Yeah.
Yeah, Donald,
would-
Donald, nobody disagrees with you. We are in support of our city staff every bit as much as you are. Actually, we want everyone who is in this city, whether they work for the school division or for the city, we want them to have adequate pay. We want everybody to have adequate pay. And I don't know what to say. There's only so much to go around, and I would also add that the city does not have access to the funding mechanisms that the schools have. The school division gets state funding that we do not get. Now, yes, there are restrictions on that funding, but as Ms. Kelly said, they may or may not provide raises for their employees. She does not make the decision. The school board makes the decision, and we don't know what's going to happen.
If I could just say something too, around the region, no jurisdictions, I can't speak for schools, but the jurisdictions are all kind of pulling back from pay raises. And if I was advising the school board as a manager, I would say don't do pay raises right now. You're talking about just a bunch of insecurity in our economy right now, right? We're going to try to reopen up very early now in the process because of that significant economic impact. So the reason why everyone's scaling back is because of that uncertainty, and you just don't want to create new costs now that you can't go back on. That's why our budget, I don't want to give up all the ammunition right now and cutting capital, and then we spend it somewhere else, and then our revenues, fall even further. And what do we do at that point, right? We've already scaled back so significantly that, I'm not sure what else, can be done. Yeah. But I completely echo your sentiment. It's why I've aggressively pushed the downtown to create revenues for our employees, because I believe exactly what you've been saying and everything that I've been hearing from the department directors in terms of how important it is for our employees to be reimbursed and how do we find the revenues. I hate playing this game of saying we need to cut from schools or cut from the city here, or cut back fleet for those police officers that we're losing so much, instead of figuring out how to generate new revenues. I think that should be the goal of the city.
I absolutely agree. We cannot continue to pit one department or one portion of the city against another. It's just not, that's not healthy.
Yeah. No, but from a fairness issue, the last 10 years, school employees have done better than city employees, and if, in their original budget, they think that they might, one of the comments that I had heard was that they might still be able to do 2% instead of the 4 or 5 that they were going to do, and as a fairness thing, if they can do 2% and we're giving them more, we should be able to do on the city side as well, if all the new money that they're getting is supposed to be restricted, except for $100,000, which I doubt with 400 employees, they could give a decent raise for 400 people with only $100,000 in new unrestricted revenue. It just, as a reminder, this budget will be for enrollment that is the 3rd year in a row decline. And by the school division's own numbers that were part of the presentation, there are 3 more declines to come after this budget. So, at some point, that we have increasing budgets but constantly declining enrollment. There has to be a point where, there's a reconciliation of that fact.
That
Unfortunately.
would be great, Mr. Shoemaker, if the monies had kept up with the massively increasing enrollment over the last 10 years. And unfortunately, one of the things that we've noticed about the enrollment was that 20% of that growth that occurred in that last 10 years occurred the year after a recession. So one of the things I am terrified will occur is that there will be a massive increase in enrollment in Manassas Park as we come out of this current shutdown and economic recession. If that happens, what in the world will we do? We are already over operational capacity using teachers on carts in multiple buildings. We do not have the room to support increased growth. This minor decrease compared to the 1,000 student increase over the last 10 years is actually needed to sustain the school division.
Ms. Kelly, may I ask a question? What evidence or foundational material do you have to lead you to believe that you might have a spike in enrollment?
All I have said is that we had a very large spike immediately following the last recession. I can provide you with the slides from last night's presentation to the school board. All of those numbers are also contained in the budget book that was posted online, this year's budget book as well as last year's budget book. You'll see 2011, we had a 240 student increase, and the following year it was 228, I believe. I might have those two backwards. Anyway, that was 40%, almost 500 students, of the 1,000+ student growth that we saw over the 10 years between the Great Recession and last school year. So the only evidence that I can point to, Madam Mayor, is that if that trend occurs again, that post-recession growth here at Manassas Park for students, that would be very concerning for me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that does not happen. I hope that doesn't happen again.
Well, that might have
The historical
coincided
evidence.
with Palisades or Dominion Crossing or
Yeah, so
something
there was a
like
lot
that.
of developments post 2009 residential developments, but you also remember you had a lot of vacancies. So you had people losing their homes during the Great Recession,
Okay.
or people selling their homes. So you had kind of a dramatic change in your population, and perhaps the people who were now buying the homes that were underwater had larger families. That could be, so you had a dramatic change in demographics because of the housing failure. We haven't seen a housing failure yet here. Let's hope we don't get it, but that is a possibility if this recession is as deep and we don't recover after we reopen and you start having spillover effects across multiple sectors across the economy, you could theoretically have, but I don't think it's going to be as severe because that one, the 2009 or 2008, 2009 recession was directly caused by a housing bubble. So you already had it was driven by real estate realities, whereas this one is just more driven by consumption collapsing because of people staying home and not working and or losing their work, their jobs and things like that. So let's hope the real estate market does not crash.
Okay.
How many?
I'd like to hear from some other council members as well. Councilmember,
Yeah, I
did
just
you
have
a
a
question?
comment or a question. I mean, I guess it's a response to Councilmember Shoemaker. I mean, when the teachers come into the city to teach in our school division, they represent the city of Manassas Park, right? So at the end of the day, we are the umbrella of the city. We should have their back as well as our own city employees as well. We got to treat them as city employees, even though technically they run by the school division. Secondly, I mean, I think they have a high turnover rate, just like anybody else. Their salaries are not close enough to any other jurisdictions, just like our departments are. But at the end of the day, they're servicing thousands of our city's children, the future generation, right? And this is the only component of the city where it has direct impact or indirectly to our tax assessment through home property values, right? There's a study that shows that the home property values increase when you have a better school division, right? So you can look at this as an investment, right? It doesn't have to be a back and forth nickeling and diming of, a few $1,000s here and there, but, I see this as a contribution, as an investment for future increase in tax assessment, and, and that could indirectly benefit us, So
Yeah.
I just want to make that comment.
Yeah, I think police, so security. If you do not have security,
Sure.
your assessments, your desire for people to want to live in insecure areas completely goes away. So I agree.
Right.
The studies certainly demonstrate that strong schools also directly correlate to increased property values. But not having a safe community.
Right,
does,
that's one of
yeah,
the components
as well.
too. But you know, if you ask any real estate agent, and Donald, you're in this industry now, number one question families ask: what is the school district like? Look at Oakton, look at Vienna, look at McLean, right? Their tax assessments, property values are high because of their school division. It's supply and demand, housing, and basically that's you know, and they're able to give raises. They're able to, you know, provide for their other departments because they supported their school division. You know, I just wanted to just make that comment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. You folks at home, Councilmember Machado, do you have a question or a comment?
Madam Mayor, I just have a comment. Our thoughts are always with the city employees. That's why there is a financial plan for 10 years and longer. And we are working towards economic development. So that salary increase occurs through the years. We have this health crisis that puts forth on our budget. We are always have the top priority for the schools and for the first responders and for all the departments. So we are always working towards the employee salary increase. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Sendejas?
Yes, I agree with Hasib and with Miriam. But I also have a question. So back in 2008 with the recession and the housing bubble, you know, it brought a lot of families to Manassas Park. Is there any evidence with gentrification of Amazon HQ2 causing people to displace from Arlington County and Fairfax? Do you think that there might be those folks coming to Manassas Park because they cannot afford living inside the Beltway and therefore increase our student population in the future?
That's an excellent question, Councilman Sendejas. Unfortunately, Manassas Park City Schools does not have the demographers that are available in other school divisions. And so the ability to study those kinds of trends are a little bit outside of just what I have as far as hours in the day to do. We have attempted to look at the changes in population within Manassas Park. However, we just don't have real good way to get that information and to track those numbers. Unfortunately, there's not a great correlation between birth rates and our kindergarten enrollment. We worry that the housing development that came in on Digital Drive and up near 7-Eleven will here in a year or two potentially result in new students in our school division. As you heard, several of the supporters for both of the candidates talked about starting in Manassas Park as new homeowners and young families, and they stayed and had 2 and 3 and 4, and in the case of the parks, several children. So we wonder if will occur again with those residences. Regarding movement out of the Beltway, I do have a meeting that I will participate in with the Northern Virginia Demographers Network here in 2 days, where I pick up at things from the team of experts that exist in Fairfax and Loudoun and Prince William. And that will be something that I will attempt to ask of them what they have seen, because of course if Fairfax and Arlington are seeing a decline, then there would be, or anticipating that kind of decline, then yes, I would think that Manassas Park and Prince William could definitely be new homes for some of those people. But I don't know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor Banks? No comments? No questions? No?
No.
Well, you know, I just want to say that I think it's important. I will say again, it's not healthy to pit the schools against the city, just like it's not healthy to pit one department against another department. Every one of us are concerned about city employees, and we're concerned about teachers too. We're concerned about everyone. We felt that, and I know you were the dissenting voice, you know, and I understand that, and I respect your point of view. But it was felt that the VML increase that was not covered by the state would be done for the schools as we are doing it for all other parts of the city. I mean, I think in most of our minds that was a fairness issue. So, but I would like to hear from everyone on the governing body about that. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have an opinion?
I think it's a fairness issue as well as, I mean, it's up to the school board what they want to do with their budget. And I definitely understand Councilmember Javed's point and Shoemaker's points. I just think at this time, it's such a dynamic situation. We're talking about raises and hiring that, you know, the budget can change, the revenue can change, whether it's from the state or either for the city. And so, and like Laszlo mentioned, you don't want to go back and have to make a decrease because of a significant impact in our revenue. So we just have to try to be as flat and conservative as possible. And so when I hear raises, when I hear hiring, yes, I hear the need, but I'm concerned because I'm thinking that's going to increase costs. What if the recession continues to next year? What if we're back in the same situation next year? So I always think a little long-term as well. So those are my concerns, and just trying to be as conservative as possible in this dynamic situation, recognizing it, and just trying to see what we can do to get through this, and then from there we can begin to deal with these as hiring and raise issue.
Are you comfortable with the 167, 121?
I am.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with 167. Yeah.
Okay.
Same, a $50,000 difference isn't going to give our employees raises.
No, it's not. It's not. Councilmember Machado, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I'm comfortable with 167,000 for the schools to increase this amount for the VRAs and VML increases not covered by the state.
Councilmember Sendejas, are you also comfortable?
I am comfortable.
Okay, okay. Are there any other questions for Ms. Kelly? Okay.
I will mention one thing, and Krista, that is, if there's anything that comes up or any concerns or updates, please let us know in terms of the state money coming to you or either requirements. I mean, I'd like to know ahead of time so we can try our best to prepare or shift things around for you.
Well, we appreciate that. I believe that was Vice Mayor Banks. Thank you very much. As several of you have stated, it's not a competition. The schools want to receive equitable support from the City Council. That's all that we ask. And we appreciate the positive support for this revised number now that we have received more solid numbers from the state. I truly understand dissenting arguments, and I appreciate that we can have these kinds of conversations, but know that we really follow a GFOA budgeting of analyzing the data and looking at what we're doing for long-term sustainability. It's ultimately important to us that we are not running into any issues in the future. But having served my first year during that furlough, during that time right after the recession, when we did have to RIF positions, when we did have to make massive cuts, I feel confident that this executive team, along with the support from our school board, can handle those kinds of changes if they come. I think we all just have to monitor and be aware and try to do our best to set us up for success in the future.
Thank you.
And we will pray that that never becomes a necessity. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So I got one question, sorry.
Yes.
Before we-
Yes.
Is there any plans for, I guess, senior graduation this year?
Those things are under works. Dr. McDade and Dr. Jackson are working in concert with superintendents around the state, as well as Dr. Lane, the state superintendent, to ensure that any kind of graduation ceremony is appropriate, given the level of down that is occurring across the state. I would speculate, this is entirely me speculating, that if things do roll out with the governor's plan to ease restrictions, that would then provide additional opportunities for the school to investigate something along the lines of a more traditional graduation, but we know it won't be thousands of people filling the stands and all of us in the seats cheering on. We just don't know what that'll look like, but rest assured that is something that is being discussed and reviewed on a daily basis.
Well, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. I would request that Laszlo repeat what you said before about going to the flat budget, not yielding sufficient funds to give our employees a raise. I think the folks at home would benefit from hearing that.
Yeah, Councilwoman Mensing made the point too. It's just the $50,000 that you would save here is not enough for a pay raise, even for a bonus. I shared the numbers with you all before about what the bonus would look like. It would be a very tiny, $100, $200 bonus with the $50,000.
So please refresh our memory what the flat budget would provide.
I don't have that in front of me because unfortunately
Okay.
I modified the flat budget school number to match to this number.
Okay.
So I would have to dig back into previous versions. But,
Okay, it was like 118 or
something like that.
Yeah,
118.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that sounds about
So
right.
so
yeah.
hence the
It
50,000.
was,
I forgot to save as my file
Okay.
to a new file as I started making modifications. Like, oh no, I lost my
do that too.
original flat.
Oh, we
That's
all
why
do
we need
that.
to move away from Excel.
We all do that.
Yeah.
So for clarity for the folks at home, it's about $50,000.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it was a little less than 1%,
Yeah. Okay.
because the original flat budget was 118.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And the 50 is just not enough to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of the graduation, and when you look at kind of the governors, and we're going to talk about this during the manager time as well. We're still figuring out as a region how we're going to respond. But if you look at the governor's phases, the earliest we can get to phase 3, and of course this could change because they change these models all the time. Looks like June 15th. Once you get into phase 3, then the restrictions about gatherings. So phase 1, gatherings of 10 or more are prohibited. Phase 2, gatherings of 50 or more are prohibited. Phase 3, those prohibitions go away. So theoretically, that would be the time that a graduation or something would be possible if they stick. But they keep kind of
Changing.
Things can change. They can go quicker. They can say they want to stick with a minimum of 2 weeks right now in between each phase, and then pressure gets to them, and they just do 1 week for each phase. Or it could be longer. We just
So I
don't
wonder
know.
how Osborne Park, didn't they declare they're doing one in
Manassas, yeah, they said they're going to do one in July.
July or something? Yeah.
Well, July, under this model, you would get to that point in July where you can do
They'd
something
be able
like
to
that.
do that. Okay. Okay. If
We did hear today in our meeting with Dr. McDade that Louisa County did a graduation, if I understood correctly, that each family had a period of time that they were able to walk across the stage, get the diploma, and take the pictures. But all of the social distancing requirements were kept in place. And then once that family had moved along and returned to their vehicles and gotten out of the way, then another family could come in. I believe, if I heard correctly, the process took 5 days.
They did it outside, Krista?
I believe that's what I understood when the story was relayed this morning.
Wow. Okay, if there are no further comments or questions, staff recommendation is that the governing body review, amend as needed, and approve the attached school's budget resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly, for calling in.
Of course. Thank you very much. You all have a wonderful evening.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
moving
you,
on
Laszlo,
to,
for the correction in the numbers. Because the original one that came through the packet on the website
Yeah,
was incorrect.
I realized it as well. Yeah, my apologies. You're talking about like the left column was wrong also. Yeah, I know.
45, 351.
Yeah, I noticed it. When I plugged it in, I was like, what did I do? So I fixed it with the...
Yeah, I didn't know.
but this one is correct, we
That
have in
one's
front of
correct.
us.
Yeah, but the original one, that's when I sent the email to you,
Yeah.
and I said that
Okay.
it was incorrect.
Yeah.
Okay, moving, city manager, Phase 3 City Center Comprehensive Agreement Review.
So this is more for the public, if they may be watching, because we had previously stated that we would be bringing the Phase 3 proposal for, the contract for you all this evening for, final review and approval. We're just not there yet, so if people are tuning in to see kind of what the final agreement was, we're just not there yet. We're still in tough negotiations, trying to make sure that we get the best deal for the city under all the parameters and goals that we've set for ourselves when we first met on this issue back in 2017 for how we want to tackle this issue. So we're going to be discussing more items tonight in closed session just to kind of see what the next steps are. But we're hoping, we really need to get something on May 19th. So if the public is interested, they can tune in again on May 19th to see where we're at. But we're hoping to have information prior to that to provide.
Okay, thank you. And then moving into budget work session.
So we're not going to make any comments about the agreement tonight, no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't hear what you saad, Dean.
Not in a public setting.
Okay,
We're going to go in a
okay.
closed meeting and discuss it.
Okay. City manager?
Yeah, for the budget work session, I haven't made the modifications yet to the spreadsheet, minus those that have come up, like the schools. I quickly did that one to get the updated numbers, but I haven't fixed the spreadsheet, so I don't have anything final for you all. My goal is May 19th to have an updated spreadsheet I'll do a little PowerPoint showing what changed, and then also have a further discussion on the lease program now that we went with Enterprise, how that's going to change the vehicle lease program. Chris,
So will it be reduced?
what's that?
Will it be somewhat reduced? Will it be pulled back?
What?
The total number of vehicles?
I can't say that. No, I think you're going to have more vehicles than what we have right now, but at a lower cost. Right now, we only have 4 vehicles on the CIP. Right? So we're going to be able to get more, but at a reduced cost.
Okay.
Right? The 30 number, yeah, we're going to be lower than the 30 number because that 30 model, when we came, remember that was back in December that we did that,
Yes,
or
yes.
January that we did that presentation? That was, we listed, that was our fleet requirements. You can see I continue to scale back the fleet requirements from that presentation just to make sure we have a balanced budget, especially after COVID-19. I pushed back an additional few vehicles from Parks and Rec as well. But that original 30 number was per the original plan for what we were going to propose for FY21. So that number will be, it's not going to be the 30 vehicles, but whatever it is, it's going to be more than what we're doing right now at a lower cost. And then we're going to be able to reduce fuel expenditures and maintenance costs as well. So you're going to have a savings from the enterprise
Okay.
lease program. We're just not going to be able to do the 30 that we had originally thought pre-COVID-19 world.
Well,
Yeah.
That's what I meant. I
Okay.
scaled back from the 30.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Have we,
Thank you.
in regards to the enterprise lease program, have we signed that contract or agreement with them already?
Yeah, you all approved that, and I believe I signed it tonight, right?
Right.
Or today? The enterprise?
It itself was signed
Uh-huh.
about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
The lease to actually get the cars in place was signed tonight, yes.
And the cost for the per vehicles are already fixed,
I
or
have to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, the equity lease,
Okay, not the actual order of vehicles.
No, no, no.
Okay.
Right,
good.
that's what I'm
I was like,
getting-
we
that's
haven't
what I'm
made that decision
getting
yet. Okay, all right, good. That's why I was
Remember, it's
confused.
scalable.
Right, it's
Yeah.
scalable so
Yeah.
that the costs
Yeah.
aren't fixed.
No, no, they're not fixed, exactly. We work on a plan each year, and I ask them to look at the model. How does this impact the 10 years, right? How you move things around, but we're flexible each year. So, you know, again, each year we're going to be able to do more vehicles than what we have currently planned in the CIP. Again, my CIP was screwed up for police. I don't know if you saw my email where you see the columns FY29 and 30 are zero, and then previous to that it was like 72,000. We forgot to transfer over some of the numbers as well, so the current CIP is wrong. But from the full CIP of fleet replacement, we're going to be able to replace our fleet a lot quicker at a reduced cost and also reduce fuel and maintenance costs as well. So you're going to have some savings, not as much year one because we're kind of scaling back because of COVID-19, and we already had reduced the amount of vehicles because of that. I mean, we're talking about 4 vehicles right now combined for police and fire, and that was it. We pushed back everything because of COVID-19. So there's not a lot more savings to be had, unfortunately, but theoretically with the new, if we can replace more than 4 vehicles, right, which we are going to do, we can then drop the operating budget fuel cost and the maintenance cost as well. So you're going to have some savings still from that.
I got another quick one
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's unclear what the future looks like, especially the economic future. But one thing I do foresee is the possibility of an increase of costs for like cleaning services, whether it's for the schools or for our public buildings, and also for PPE, the equipment to personal protective equipment. Have you heard talks in terms of those requirements or demands for us as a city?
Yeah, we've been utilizing Parks and Rec staff for that. So the goal is if we get the stimulus money, right? I think Fairfax County has already been awarded their money. We haven't heard back as kind of Prince William area, but regardless, if they don't approve the direct from the federal, it'll eventually come from the state. Cross your fingers that it will, and it'll be a certain amount. But you can't use that for revenue loss. But we are going to certainly count everything that our Parks and Rec department has essentially become a park maintenance department and a COVID-19 response department, right? Whether it's the hotline, the food distribution, and then the mass cleaning throughout the city, where to protect employees, our first responders, and all those by constantly kind of cleaning. And now, you know, if approved, if there's no objections tonight, with contact tracing as well. That's one of the governor's goals to get us to phase 3 is we need to have more robust contact tracing and see that happen. So we're going to be hopefully utilizing Parks and Rec staff to augment the health department.
Can they
for
handle? We
that.
have 96 cases as of today.
Yeah.
In terms of COVID-19, can they
Correct.
handle that large amount?
Well, it's augmenting. So you have the health department, you have the Medical Reserve Corps volunteers throughout the region, and then they're asking for augmentees from local governments. So the fact that we're doing all this, that stimulus money is covering, the fact that we have Parks and Rec still, but we're not bringing in the revenues that Parks and Rec normally develop. So that will hopefully balance out the impacts from COVID-19 on Parks and Rec specifically, and then help us out as because we haven't laid off our employees. Now when we reopen, we go back to kind of status quo operations without impacts to our operations when we reopen.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Question?
I don't know how deep we're going to get into this conversation. I had one idea that I wanted to throw out on the revenue side.
What page are you on?
I'm not on a page. Is that I was looking at the numbers for solid waste. And right now, solid waste is basically reimbursing the general fund for previous deficits. And so we're X amount of years out. From an operational and from a cash flow position, I was thinking that maybe we could try something different. The current fee is $21.21. The 5% that we're proposing is $1.09, so that makes it $22.30. And then the next year would be 5% more. I think that's what your model is looking at. That takes us to $23.42. That averages $22.30 and $23.42 average to $22.86. And my thought is, I write my checks in even dollar amounts. I don't play with the change. And so what if we went to $23 even, which would give us a little bit more right now, but we hold that number for 2 years. So we would be $23 in FY '21 and $23 in FY '22, but it would give us a little bit more cash during FY '21. And that's referring back to the previous discussion when we said 50,000 wasn't enough. You're right, but I was trying to look for some other places to string cash along so we could get to a raise.
Well, the cash that you get there, it just brings back, it just reduces the negative fund balance, so it's just a fund balance transfer. It's not a, you're right, though, about doing the $23 idea would give us more, it would help our cash position and help out the city general fund balance position.
That is
Not
correct.
necessarily the operating budget model. And you're right, it would generate more revenue over the 2 years and more revenue up front. So as a cash idea, I think it makes total sense.
Right. And
I'm not
also-
sure you can take that money then and then increase employee pay raises. Yeah.
Well, it would.
What
Because
is
it's still
the
at a negative
increase?
position.
How much
you
is
have to
the
bring it to-
increase?
Well, I mean, I wasn't sure how many households. I was thinking like there's probably 5,000.
A little bit less. I think we average like
40.
somewhere around 4,500-ish.
Okay, I don't know how you guys do the HOAs, like the condos that don't pay individually. I don't know if you assess solid waste on each one of them and do it as a huge amount.
Yeah, so if they have dumpsters, we charge the dumpster fee, which is different.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking like up here in Outlook, they're on master meter, but they all get individual trash. Like, do you charge them solid
I would
waste?
have to
for 80?
inquire with the treasurer, but my understanding would be yes.
What's your,
Anyone who's getting the trash service receive the bill.
the current fee is what, 22,
21,
and you want to round it up?
and then the increase that's already in the budget would make it 2230.
You're still rounding it up.
That is correct. But it would also.
No.
It would also have the extra little benefit of ease of transaction at the treasurer's office, because you're now dealing in water and sewer and trash bills that are in even dollar amounts. There would not be any change. I mean, imagine you got people, and I see them, they come in and pay cash, and they've got to make change, the staff does. Imagine if you're not making change, and you can process transactions much more quickly.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
from an operational standpoint, I hand you, $86 instead of $85.42, and now you've got to hand me some change back.
Yeah, so you're saying just round everything
round
so
up,
that, yeah.
and you would just take it, as you were saying, take it from the money that solid waste still owes to the general fund. You're just expediting the date when it becomes zero, because they're multiple
Yeah.
years behind. And I don't know how to say that financially, but we're multiple years away from the break-even point, and it would give us a little bit of cash. And that's why I was looking at the schools would be a little bit of cash. This might be a little bit of cash. We might save some money on the gas because it's historically very cheap. We might have a little bit of cash. We could probably string along a little bit and a little bit and a little bit to get to 135,000, which I believe is the 1% number, if I'm not mistaken. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
that sounds right. I think it's like
Right.
260-ish for the 2%.
Right, I was even saying even just 1%, because that would at least get them to a point where they're not losing money in terms of take-home after health insurance, and that was my goal. And so, yeah, 50,000 wasn't enough, but I wasn't done yet.
Yeah.
And,
So
Yeah,
this
so I'd
is-
have to look at how much revenue generates, and then you'd have to factor in kind of the fund balance. So it would increase the fund balance contribution, essentially, right? It wouldn't be new cash to the city general fund. It would just increase the city fund balance position, and then we could increase the fund balance contribution to the general fund as a way to do it.
yeah,
But-
I mean, at 5,000 houses, which, I mean, is a little high, but I wasn't 100% sure. That 70 cents, which is not a South Struthers commercial, but anyway, is $42,000 a year. Even rounding down, that's 40.
I guess this is where we're going to disagree, right? Because you want to take the 2230, round it up to $23, but it's, and I get it, it's a matter of sense, but it's the principle here. I don't want to round up anything in terms of fees for our citizens, especially during this time.
Right. But, I mean, the second year, it would stay 23. instead of going to 2342.
But right now, you're talking rounding it up for them. When people are struggling out here, and so, I don't want to round it up, period. And I've got neighbors that are struggling. Personally, I see them struggle.
And
there's-
they're going to say to us, why don't you take it off the water bill?
Right.
Yeah.
Or they're going to say, why are you rounding up a fee on me? I mean, I've got one who can't even pay their electric bill right now that I'm concerned about. So let's just be a little considerate and not try to jump and try to get efficiencies, during this time.
Well, I mean, if we were on an accounting basis, this debt goes back a long ways. This should have, if in reality, this should have been paid a long time ago. I mean, we've strung this along for, 15 years?
Well, no, because I think in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, when Chief Evans, when he was the acting, I think you guys you made some significant adjustments to try to get stormwater and solid waste funds in a balanced position, from my understanding, from when I came in a better position, so that it was no longer growing. So I think you all have taken the action to, instead of these funds going like this, they've been actually going like this. It's just we didn't want to overburden our residents with, the stormwater one was a huge increase, but with trash, we wanted kind of level increases, not to do one giant hit. And
Right.
I think, to Preston's point, from a economic standpoint, in reality, we probably shouldn't be doing any fee increases right now, any tax increases right now. You never want to increase taxes on the public during recessions, right? It just has other governments are supposed to be reducing taxes during recessions, increasing taxes during during growth. That's the standard model. No one actually does that, unfortunately. But that is about, from an economic standpoint, that's certainly correct. It's just from these enterprise funds, we want them to be solvent, and that's why we have kept the strategy. But I certainly recognize the reality that it may not be a bad idea to hold off on any fee increases this year because of the bad situation happening right now for the economy and for the public. But,
Right, and I would add that this is more than a recession. This is a government-forced shutdown of our economy. So people can't work that are shut down. So, and they don't know if they're going to return to a job because the demand may not be there. So we've got to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I can't support a fee increase like that. That's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, then would you like to make the 2230 less? Make it 22?
No, just keep it. I mean, but don't try to round it up just for efficiency. You
Well,
consider
but
the residents.
It's money that fund owes to the general fund. I mean, how much money is it going to cost to send a police officer to the academy? It's $75,000.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can even get a 0.5% raise or a 1% raise, we're saving so much money if we don't have to send police officers and firefighters to the academy. It's tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, this minimal increase would be dwarfed by one extra person leaving.
I get you, Don. But we have a resident that has 3 unemployed people in her home right now, 3 adults, and she's concerned about that. I got a friend who just asked me for $30 to pay for his groceries for his family, and I paid him via Facebook Messenger. This is hitting people hard, and we've got to consider that.
We don't even know if the 1% would help our retention, because
can't
people
hurt.
people are leaving for more than that.
Right, but if nobody's giving a raise and we can give a small one, it's at least something to show our employees that, that we recognize, and that if we can't we can do a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. That's all I'm saying is, I'm throwing out ideas because, and I haven't tried to say, let's cut and slash everything. I'm not that kind of person, and you know that.
No, I know that.
I've never been that kind of person.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find little teeny bits to try to string some things together to help our employees. Because the reality is, if they have city health insurance, their take-home pay is going to go down. And, we have city employees, who qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have, that's the reality. We have our own city employees are part of the free and reduced lunch number for our school division or the school divisions of wherever they live.
Comments?
I mean, as much as I would love to give our employees a raise, I just can't see raising the fees for the residents. We're all in the same terrible boat. I just can't.
And I think the city staff is aware of the situation. I think they understand that everybody's stressed out, even the government. So I think 1 year, 2 year, if they didn't get a raise, I think that would be understandable.
Do you all want to have 0 increases in the stormwater and trash fund for this fiscal year? Because we have programmed increases for both right now per the model. But again, it's not a bad idea during a recession. Like, we would adjust it later when the economy rebounds, but it's not a bad idea to hold flat on any tax increases or fee increases during this time.
What kind of an impact would that have?
What's that?
What's
It would
the
have
impact?
a temporary fund balance impact on all of them, but the stormwater fund balance is still positive. The water and sewer fund balance is still positive.
Positive.
Solid waste is still negative. It'll remain in kind of a negative position, right? I'd have to plug in the numbers and I can come back to you all, but it's not, it's something I think that should be encouraged of all governments across the country to not increase fees and taxes.
I would
right
say
now.
absolutely do not raise them then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can plug in the numbers and tell you all kind of what the impact is if that's the direction that. we
Yeah,
wanna
I
go,
see
but
the
think-
solid waste was negative 212,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in my, I think, in my presentation 1, it lists all the different fund balances. So
Okay.
certainly we're going to have to ramp it up with stormwater, but we're trying to come up with creative ways. Alan, Calvin, and I met with a different, company this week, possibly figure out some innovative ways to do the large-scale stormwater projects in the future. So we're going to contribute, just like enterprise, just like everything else we're going to do, we're going to try to continue to find innovative ways to do things at a lower cost than
Yeah.
what we currently have right now. But that project is still a few years off. Like, if we had to do it, like DEQ said, you need to start next year, then I would be very hesitant to, but then again, then we'd ask them to push back the mandate right now during the recession. And I hope they're doing that. I hope that everyone's going to kind of ease off on mandates right now during this time.
You're so funny, Lazo.
I know. It's just,
Would
but
that
absolutely, because
They
you
don't
see,
ease off on demands that other governments
there's
have
still
to
other
do.
governments increasing taxes and fees right now.
Would that
It's
affect
insane.
our,
Yeah.
I mean, I know
No, we can't do that.
Calvin is getting some inspections on the culverts, and if we have to do construction or repair to them, would that affect the funds to repair them or?
Yeah, if we're using stormwater fund for the smaller, those are expenditures. Again, we're still at a positive position, so all it does is it's going to be a hit on our fund balance this year, right? But we would then have to commit in the future to kind of bounce back up once the economy recovers. And normally for the enterprise funds, you want to treat them independently, like a business. But then again, you also don't want to hurt our economy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with the mayor, and I mean, I think my philosophy is if, in terms of rebounding, you want to get as directly money to the individuals as possible.
Well, especially because those two funds have a positive balance right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes, we could, if it's doable.
Let's hear from the folks at home. Councilmember Machado?
I also don't want any increases in fees.
Councilmember Sendejas?
Same here. But also talking about salary increases, pretty much like in different sectors, you're not seeing increases in salaries, including nonprofits. But I think that we understand that because of this crisis, we're limited in, adjusting any increases for our employees.
So can I make a suggestion as well? So if our economy rebounds strongly for FY22 and the downtown is approved, that we pursue aggressive raises in FY22.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What we were going to do this year and even more, and
Absolutely.
just,
Yeah.
It's,
because we will have,
I'm sure we'll all be on board for that.
all right.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments or questions?
I was concerned, just as a general comment, I don't know that it's actionable, I guess, but, I don't know, when you're watching, so I was watching the videos, the different departments, kind of some themes that I kind of gleaned was just severe underpay across departments. Every department just about mentioned it. And kind of something I wanted to reference, and I didn't want to have a tit for tat with Krista on the phone. That was not my goal, but we still have, and several departments said, we still have frozen positions from the last recession that have never been refilled. And I know that Parks and Rec is working 20% under for their 17 people doing 21 full-time positions specifically. Police department still doesn't have animal control, and I think there was an administrative position that they either really need or was never filled from the last one. Community development, they have 4 frozen right now. They have 32 people and 4 people frozen, or 4 positions frozen. The fire department, I remember he's had 25% turnover in FY19 and FY20. In addition to the turnover was that they can't maintain the 24 FTEs, and I believe that was even after we approved 25, that they still can't maintain 24. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't know that he specifically said it that
So
way.
our average used to be like, at 22, so it's increased the average to get closer, but you're right, we still can't maintain that number. So the goal was to kind of increase the average.
Right. I'm just pointing out that we still have never gotten to
Yeah.
24 even.
We did for like, I think, a week or two.
Okay. Well, everybody can have a banner week, right? Police, 55% turnover in the last 2 years in frontline officers. And the number that struck me was that in order for them to do a 3% increase, correct me, was that a 3% increase just for their staff? Was a $449,537 number, and I think that was a 3% increase, and that's just for their department.
No, I think
That was the number they said, was 449,537 is needed for a 3% increase, so I wasn't sure.
no, that's not for just their department. I think that what that was the gap to get them to our neighbors, like competitive pay.
Is that like to meet the average, or like
Yeah,
that's
I'll
how
have to
much
go
under
back and
average
look at
we
it,
are?
but no, as a city,
The way he said it was 449,537 is needed for a 3% increase.
yeah, let me go back, but it's you're talking about 390,000 across the city for a 3% right now, so that it can't just be for the police department is part of that 3%.
Right, so that's why I didn't
Yeah.
get that, but I mean, it was just significant. I mean, maybe that was also to include their step program.
Yeah, I think it could be,
It was, they included some other numbers that
we
weren't
did,
explained.
in our spreadsheet, and that's I still want to do, and I haven't had time to just kind of go over those gaps like I did last year, right, from our competitors. But the police department has the biggest gap from our competitors, unfortunately. And so it's a pretty significant number to get us back up to them. So the goal is to target by position, like where we're behind over the next few years. So even if we do aggressive pay increases starting in FY22, I recommend, a certain across-the-board percentage, and then, again, a certain pot of funding for kind of strategic pay increases for those positions that are really further behind from their market value, that are critical positions for the city.
Absolutely, and then, social services, we're going through this COVID crisis, huge increases in benefits, unemployment, Medicaid, TANF, food stamps, and they need another position because of just the workload is huge, and 2 of the positions they currently have are vacant. And I worry that because of our uncompetitive pay right now, it will be very difficult to recruit somebody that's not internal. So I guess more, things we already know, but just for the public's benefit, almost every department is saying the exact same thing. They're saying we have vacancies, or we have frozen positions from the last recession, 10 years that we've, you know, and the city population has increased.
Yeah. And
we've never,
Yeah.
you know, filled those positions. And,
And I think we've consistently repeated that every single department is understaffed and overworked.
right, I mean,
We-
absolutely. I just
Yeah.
want to repeat it again
We have
because I feel like it
consistently
was-
said that over time.
And I just want,
And it's
yeah.
true.
Absolutely, and I'm agreeing with you,
Yeah.
but I'm just bringing
Yeah.
forth that through the videos, through the different directors, you know, without talking to each other, they're saying it about their own, each individual department, and so, you know, I know we're not in a great position to fix it right now, but just that, you know, for the, you know, for the benefit of the public is that we really are operating the city as best we can with the resources that we have, and we are still understaffed, you know, understaffed and underpaid relative to our, you know, next door neighbors, you know, Manassas
And
Prince William.
overworked.
Absolutely, but I'm just bringing that point. I hear you
Yes.
on the staff side, just loud and clear, and just, I mean, I took notes on every presentation, and I see something in every presentation, either not enough people and severely underpaid and or overworked given their expected duties and workload, and, you know, we have to be careful because that's very unsustainable over time.
But the thing is that.
We know that. We know that.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying that I don't think we can, or maybe we can, provide a pay raise and fill vacancies, right? It's like an either-or situation?
Well, you want to do both, but you're right. You got to,
budget
everything's a
standpoint,
trade-off.
right.
So you have to, if you only have certain X pot of funding, right, and you want to prioritize where you're spending that, yeah, you can't, yeah, if you're just picking one, yeah, it's pay raises right now, but that's a tough question too, because you ask employees, it's a tough question for them because they want the pay raise, but they're overworked, so it's a really
I think that's one of the
hard-
reasons there's a
Yeah.
high turnover raise, because they're wearing many hats, right?
Yeah.
And it just basically comes down to priority. I mean, pay raise, or you want to fill these vacancies. Eventually, we could hopefully do both, but I mean, I don't. It just comes down to, if we give the pay raise, we're still going to have those vacancies, right?
Right. It's a resource allocation
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
issue.
If we fill those vacancies, then I don't think we could give the pay raise, because we got to allocate the funds.
The goal is to do both.
But
I think
goal is
in
to
a
do both,
balanced-
right.
Balanced way, yeah.
Right.
Lasso, as, you know, the leader of on the staff side, which one right now is the one you hear the most complaints about?
I still think pay raise is still, when you have the conversations, it's a tough decision for many employees, but it's still the pay raise, because if they want to stay here, which they do, even being overworked, they liked working here, but when you see a job offer that's thousands and thousands of dollars more, and it's not about them, you know, their personal happiness at that point, it's about, I got to take care of my family, it makes it a very, very difficult situation. So they're both absolutely critical, but I still think pay raises is still the number one priority for our employees. And I just want, you know, we appreciate that you listed everything out for our departments, and I just think we need to have some kudos for what we've been able to accomplish the last few years, where, just think about where we were before, right? Over the last few years, we didn't have completed audits. We were going to be labeled fiscally distressed. We had to deal with the debt spike. Now we have to deal with COVID-19. Now we have to deal with the COVID-19 recession. We still got to pay bonus in year one. We got a 3% pay raise, you know, year two, right? We've accomplished a lot. I think regardless of all those things, we've been able to manage so much, and I think we're close. And I think we just need to figure out how to bump our revenues in the future so we can tackle all these problems together. But I think we've accomplished a lot the last few years of the historical debt and a pandemic and another recession at the same time while we're trying to deal with this historic debt, and we were still able to get a pay raise in last year. Despite all of this that we've dealt, we've been able to get out of the fiscal distress label. We've been able to reestablish our credit. We've been able to catch up with our audits. So we have accomplished, we've even been able to bump up FTEs as well, right? We have increased FTEs over the last few years. So we've been able to kind of tackle these problems while also being dealt with, you know, historical challenges, right? While we were not set up in a good position to deal with COVID, because we're nowhere near where we need to be from a fund balance position, right? But we've been able to address it. So it's a lot of hard work, but I think we've been doing the best that we can. I need, the public needs to know that. Everything that the whole Keystone thing, we still had to deal with that as well. That was handed to us as well, that we've had to overcome over the last few years, just the failure of an ERP, and we've been able to do all those things still during this time, and with our staff, everything we've been able to do for our city right now with COVID-19, despite being underpaid, despite being short-staffed, everything we've been able to do to continue to serve our residents, I think is very impressive what we've been able to accomplish the last few years, and I know we get a lot of
I do think we've
complaints.
come a long way.
Yeah.
And I want
Absolutely.
to completely agree with you. I wasn't trying to be negative specifically. I
No,
just
no.
was trying to highlight some themes
Yeah,
that
we
we have to
appreciate
work
that.
on. And
Yeah.
But I wanted to know, I mean, I come in on Friday afternoon sometimes, and I see how many employees are here past 5 o'clock. I see people in the treasurer's office. I see people in Commissioner of Revenue. I see people on the administrative side. I see people back in finance. There are people even on Friday afternoon when it'd be easy at 5:01 to walk out the door with your bag. I see people here still working because they care about the city. They care about the quality of work that they're doing. And as I say, even with the challenges, as you said, better than I did, but that they're committed to what they're doing and they see value in what they're doing. And I'm very appreciative, but I did that in the terms of that I hear them and I hear what they're saying, and I want you to know that on our side of the dais that we hear what the staff is saying, and that I've internalized it in terms of trying to figure out different ways to help.
I know they're very appreciative that the issue, it keeps being raised, that it's brought to light consistently. I think that's appreciated, and we just need to figure out the strategy to get the funds to do those things.
I believe they do know that we care.
Correct.
I believe that. Yeah. Are there any last comments or questions?
I do want to make a comment that, well, this pandemic kind of leveled all of us on the individual level because we're all susceptible to it. But at locality level, it leveled us because before the pandemic, we looked at the budgets of different localities, and they're, one's giving teacher raises and reducing real estate taxes, and others thinking about doing the same, and it was so competitive. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and we're flat budget. And those plans have
Yeah.
definitely turned drastically.
Just like the sun shines on everybody, the rain rains on everybody, too.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think we are leveraged, and ironically, because we're so dependent on real estate taxes, we're not as hit as hard.
Yay for once.
Once, and hopefully it doesn't trickle down to the mortgage industry and housing. So, but I'm hoping that we, can recover, and our ducks are in a row. We've got the audit, we've got our financial processes improved, and we have our tax collection improved as well.
Absolutely.
That we can come out of this and be even stronger and kind of go on an upscale financially. So that's what I'm hoping for, but I hope for the best on that one.
Last comments or questions? How about you folks at home? Any comments, last questions?
This is the registrar. Can you hear me?
Beg your pardon?
Patricia, I think it's Patricia, the registrar.
Patricia.
Yes.
Go to registrar.
Hello, good evening, Patricia. How are you?
I just like to say I've been with the city a really long time, and I've seen a lot of staff go through a lot of incurred costs to the health care going up, and yes, we don't always get pay raises and those type things. We truly all do love the city, and we do work hard. But I'm telling you right now, and this may be not where I bring this up, but we all need staff. We need help to do our jobs. We're coming up on a very busy year, especially in our department, and if our staff is not met, we will fail. I don't know exactly where you all stand on this because I'm not sure where you all are going with this. I know that the budget's been put up and I've watched them all, but I think I speak for a lot of us that having the staff in place would be very important.
I think we all understand that what you do has federal overtones, and we don't want there to be a chance for failure in your department with what you do, because what you do is so sensitive. Other than and now that you're on the phone, just want to ask you a question. other than the part-time going to full-time and other than the poll book software, were there any other needs that would enable you to do a better job for November and not, let me put it this way, is there anything else you're concerned about failure that would affect the November election?
Yes, so the staff has three components to it. It has the part-time person going to full-time, and we really do need that person in that place. It also has hours for my deputy. It is imperative that I have those because we've always increased in the past the hours of our staff to get through, and we've always just barely gotten through. With the no excuse coming through, we're going to see a massive increase, especially with the COVID, on the mail ballots now going out. I have tons of them sitting out there that I'm still processing for November. We've seen an uptick in those already. So the mail, the postage that's in our budget, if you approve it from last year, I don't have enough money to do the ballots or to mail out all the voter notices. So my line items are very strictly,
Okay.
they're important. They go directly to me doing my job. I don't put any fluff in my budget, but again, so when you take stuff away from line items, and I did put that in my presentation, what we needed from all the other line items, like advertising, the postage is the big thing, and the staff is the most important for us.
Okay. So you definitely need more postage than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had like $1,000, and now I have over $5,000. And
Okay.
improved last year's, I won't make it. So
Right. Right.
I mean, I know there's a lot of departments in need, so I hate to even ask, but we have never recovered from 2010.
Okay.
Okay, so we're still we work hard, but we have never recovered, and it's time.
Okay.
Patricia, may I ask you a question? I don't know if she can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patricia, so I'm looking at page 47 of the budget book, which is your page, your registrar page, and it has the line items. I mean, it has the other parts, but the line items on 47. Does the 223,902 number, does that include putting your part-time person as a full-time person and including the increase in the postage, those two things you just mentioned? Are those two increases in the 223 number?
What page are you on again?
I'm on page
Is that the
40.
budget? I don't know because what I presented had those
47,
increases, and I know
40.
Laszlo had said he was going to go back to 2020. So I don't know I know when he presented, I understand why he presented it. So if you're looking at his numbers, then no.
I'm
If you're looking at the
that's not
numbers I
accurate.
put in for 2021, then yes.
I'm reading the.
Yeah, so the numbers here are the 2%.
Okay,
Remember,
I'm looking
yeah.
in the booklet.
I know, I have it right here. You're looking at this, right?
I'm looking at the paper
Okay.
copy.
It's the same
47.
table.
Page
It's the same
47.
table.
23,000, right?
Yeah.
So the number from last year was, or the year we're in now, is 175,498, and so there's like a 30,000 increase in salary and wages. Does that account
Yeah,
for the
that-
part-time to the full-time?
Correct. So what's in the budget book, so if you look closely at my executive summary, so read that like 3 times, because that highlights what the flat budget is, and then I say everything after this is the 2% budget, which includes the flat budget plus the increases. So all these tables are the 2% budget. As kind of like a historical archive. So if we can go back to this, like in December, if the economy is rebounding and our revenues are fine, we have this now as a reference. And then my executive summary, I say, well, but the flat budget is only this. But there's no point in doing a full budget book on a flat budget if nothing's changed. So we did the budget book on the 2% for things that we want to see increased. And so I presented 2 budgets, Patricia. I didn't say I was just going to present one and that was it. So I presented 2 budgets.
I know, yeah.
And my recommendation is we stick with the flat budget, but because we have the presidential elections, we need to consider
Right.
what we need to do for
Because
the
I see a
registrar.
significant increase in postage here. That's good.
Almost $6,000.
Yes, yes.
Is that enough, Patricia? I guess I'm confused, Laszlo. Is the numbers in the paper?
This is the
like-
2%.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm confused. So that means that all the budgets are the 2021s, except for,
Yeah, so,
I'm trying to do this now, looking at the thing, but
yeah, so all of these tables, right, in the budget book and all the descriptions are based off the 2% budget model. And so the only thing that references the flat budget is my executive summary.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at on page 4 and page 5. I
Yeah,
mean,
and then we have some kind of references throughout, but like I usually show two tables, right? So I'll show one with, the flatter 2% or no downtown model with downtown model. You'll have that sprinkled in, but these actual tables that have the line item tables, those are the 2%, because you already know what the flat budget is by looking at the FY20, except for, VRS and certain things like that.
So, I mean, how are we supposed to give, I don't even understand then, because then what's the number that includes her two things? It's neither one of those numbers.
No, it would be this one here. Yeah, this is the one that's, so you would take the flat budget, right, spreadsheet, and you would just take these numbers and add these numbers.
Where are you pointing?
So
second
this is page 46 or 47 that he referenced?
I'm on page
Yeah,
47.
this table here, right, so there's two spreadsheets, remember, this is just a book. That's like copy and paste from the spreadsheet, right? So the way we would look at the budget, if you wanted to make just the changes for the registrar, you would take the flat spreadsheet, you would take these numbers from the 2%, copy, and paste them into the flat budget.
So my question was, which column were you pointing to? I couldn't
The
see
second
through
one.
your
Well,
drink.
FY21, right?
Okay.
Because the other column's FY20.
Okay,
It's just showing kind of how it's grown.
so that's the 2%.
Yeah, that's the 2%
So,
budget.
so,
But that includes a 2% raise as well?
Correct.
so,
The number
so,
won't be that, because you're saying we're not going to give a raise.
Correct.
so
It's going to be
either one of
slightly
those-
different. You're absolutely right. It would be in a,
One of those numbers.
yeah, it's somewhere in between. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
so,
Includes the FTE change, but not the salary change and the FICA
I'm
analysis.
really confused now because.
it is very confusing.
Because
So
I'm
when we
reading the-
get to the point where we're ready to decide, is it going to be like à la carte? And then we're going to start picking what we think is needed? Like, for example, Patricia's part-time going to full-time,
Yeah,
her
unless you want me
postage, her-
just to draft my recommended budget, I can do that. But you all asked me for the two models, which is the flat model
Flat one, yeah.
with everything, the same except for VRS, VML, health
Okay.
insurance, right? And then the 2% model, which includes a 2% pay raise plus
Okay.
the additional staff for the registrar. That was it.
It should be
Okay.
à la carte like that. I think
Yeah.
so.
For the flat budget,
Where is the, okay, where is the flat budget plus the VRS number,
In the spreadsheet,
the electronic one?
yes.
So this budget book is of no use. I can just not look at it ever again because none of these numbers are right. Right?
If you want to say that, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, so no budget will look like what's in this book, right?
Well, potentially in December, it could.
That's the dynamic
Yeah, that's the-
situation. You just
Correct.
But that's what I meant about the à la carte, because December is going to be past the election.
but-
It's going to be past when Patricia
But my
needs her
answer
stuff.
is, if you want to know what the flat budget is, it's in the spreadsheet. Just pull it up
Okay,
and look at these
okay.
line items. It's right there. And then you can say, you know what, I like this idea. Again, the only change in the 2% budget is a 2% salary increase, and then the changes to the registrar, right? So you can say, hey.
we
well,
got the
also-
we
yeah,
got the
Okay.
extreme right here.
Correct. Do the flat budget, but add the registrar change, then I'll update that spreadsheet.
Okay.
Right, and I'll resend it to you all.
But the flat rate isn't the flat because it doesn't include the VRS.
It does. Yeah,
So
the
then
flat.
So then it's not truly flat then.
Well, remember, that was it, that was a whole discussion with why we did the schools right now, right? We wanted to capture, it's a flat, except, and I do this in, in the executive summary in my PowerPoint, flat except for VRS, VML, and health insurance,
Yeah.
right? And then I think I also mentioned, like, for like, police department uniforms, right, because of all the turnover. I think those were like the 4 categories that we talked about.
Okay. So the only place where the numbers are correct are the electronic version, not
Yes.
the paper copy.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, that's helpful.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
helpful. Okay.
I just need to look at the right things now, because I didn't look at the electronic at
Yeah.
all. I looked at the paper one because I had it in my hand. And I'm looking through each line item, just like I would, So it's just a little bit frustrating now because that wasn't correct.
I thought I made it clear in my executive summary. I could be wrong. But I thought I highlighted that in the executive summary, that the following pages are strictly the 2% budget.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
I
I gotta-
realize that the other one was, because there really should have been 3, then there should have been another column where it's flat plus the VRS.
How are you
plus
going to
the
put
health
that on one
insurance.
page?
So,
So I got
trying to think
I
here.
got a
Yes,
question for
go ahead.
Patricia.
Go ahead.
Hi, Patricia. This is Preston. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right. I have a question. I'm just brainstorming. Would it save you money in postage if, when we get mailed the ballot, that we deliver it to you instead of mailing it back?
The whole purpose of the mail ballot is for you not to come in person.
Right.
Otherwise, you could have came in person and voted and saved me a lot more postage, but no. The whole problem is we have some people who are elderly, disabled, people in college, and they can't bring the ballots back. Part of what was in that budget, the 2021, was we thought they were going to pass the requirement for us to put postage for all return ballots. So
Right.
I think that got pushed off by a year by the governor, which is fine with me. But we're expecting a big increase in postage. So because we're expecting more ballots to go out than we expected a big increase in person, now we're expecting a big increase in mail. So I had 700 pieces of mail going out for absentee plus 700 return postage. So I actually have $1,400 built in to mail enough. I have money built in to mail 1,400 ballots.
Okay. Okay.
So if
and
we
the,
go over that, then I'll just have to manage my money. But I can't do that under the 2020. But yeah, so if you get that increase in there, I'm hoping we'll be fine.
so the voters have to provide their own postage on the mailing the ballot back to you.
Right now, but
Okay.
that's changing.
Got it.
Okay. Is that a state
How long?
Is that a state mandate?
Once it passes, it will be, yes.
Okay.
Once the clause kicks in for it. There's been a lot of strange legislation this year with stuff that gets held over to next year, gets voted again. One of the things is the voter registration, it never ends. So we're looking at having same-day registration and same-day absentee voting. That's going to just totally annihilate us. But that's next year. So we'll face what we got now.
Patricia,
But, yeah.
Patricia, do you
Yeah?
how do you do your mail? Do you meter? You have like Pitney Bowls. You do the meter.
Yes.
Do it's
Yeah.
it's
we
50.
save,
It's
yeah,
50
we
cents.
spend 65 cents on each piece going out.
Oh, okay. So because 2 ounces.
Yeah. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of extra envelopes that have to go out
What
to get the ballots back.
would it be cheaper if the city had a meter? I mean, not the printed meter that you run the letters through here physically, but in terms of having like a an account at the post office where you would have a permit. I
A
shouldn't say
bulk
it.
mail permit?
Well, bulk mail, or you could send it first class, but still do it through the permit. And so that my question is given that you're going to have a lot more volume, would it be cheaper? I mean, we really could do it for the whole city actually, and you just print the permit right onto the envelopes. And if it's all, I mean, I don't know how much it is. If it's only 45 cents, let's say, because it's metered first class, let's say, it might be cheaper than the Pitney Bowls, given that you're going to have more volume. You might meet a higher volume threshold to get some of these programs you have to do like a yearly minimum in terms of mail. Maybe with your additional volume now, we might qualify for a better rate or a different program that we don't currently. Have you investigated that at all?
We get the discounted rate. We don't get the discounted because of the size of the envelope and all the stuff that goes inside of it. It is very heavy. But we used to get a bulk rate. And what we would have to do was print mounds and mounds of paperwork that the post office approved we'd have to pay a certificate mailing receipt, and then we would get a bulk mailing rate, but it wasn't worth it. It was time consuming. It was labor intensive. So we went with the state's second option, which was we can have to actually take the ballots to the post office or actually physically give them to a post office employees who are actually having to go to the post office, but we don't have to pay the extra fee that goes on there to get them to stamp the paper. I mean, they actually want everything in order, and it has to be, it just has to be just so. So we've gone to the simpler route, which is to put the meter on there and then go drop them off. We're saving money doing it that way.
So is it
But
less?
if the city qualified for a bulk rate, that would be fine, but I don't know if it's going to qualify for something that is heavier than a normal piece of mail.
But you can do, you can do you can do permitted mail at any weight. It doesn't have to be just at 1 ounce.
Right, but I know there's a base fee you have to have, and it has to be pre-printed it used to have to be pre-printed on the envelopes. So that means all the envelopes we have now, we'd have to go get pre-printed with a bulk mailing or the prepaid, box would have to be on there. And there's like a $700, $800 fee just to apply for it. I mean, I'm not against it. If we can find a way to save money, I'm all for it. But I haven't heard of anything yet from my other registrars, like Princeton County. They would get that rate. They have a lot of more ballots going out than we do, and nobody has said anything about saving money on postage.
I'm just trying to find a different way, maybe, that there's, given that we will have
Right.
more volume, that, that we might be able to save money, given that we're going to be doing a lot more than we used to, because they do give volume discounts, especially because we're all in one
Can check with the-
zip code.
I can check with a few of my other registrars who do a little bit more bulk than we do. Maybe something like Falls Church would be compatible to what we do, and see if they have any ideas. I can do that.
And Patricia, we don't want to make it more labor intensive on you. Whatever you do.
Well, neither do I.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Right. Any questions or comments?
Oh,
for
Patricia, I got a question. There's a concern, there's mailing problems at Bloom's Crossing. And, I mean, are you worried about those voters not getting the ballots? Or not even getting them on time, or?
We haven't had a lot of complaints about people not getting their ballots. We've had, I live in Bloom's, and I know I get my neighbor's mail 90% of the time. But, I'm neighborly and I walk it down. But I haven't had a lot of complaints about people not getting their mail. Every once in a while, when you have the bigger elections, you're going to get that, but not on a normal basis. And they're not coming back undeliverable because they would have to, the way they're posted. So, no, we haven't had a big complaint about that.
That's out of her control anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Folks,
I just want to say, Preston, for the record, I live in Bloom's and I don't experience that type of issues with.
Okay.
I have it once in a while, but, yeah. Once
Have
in
it
a
all the
while.
time, all the time.
Do you? Okay.
I'm like a
Yeah, all the
part-time mail
time.
carrier.
Wow.
Well, that's because you guys live on one route and she lives on a different one.
Okay.
He's withholding names.
Lucky where I am.
All I can say is
Hector,
not
do you have
me.
any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any more comments for Patricia?
No.
Yeah, questions?
Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for calling in, Patricia. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So is there a consensus in the final budget file to provide the 2% numbers minus the salary for Patricia? So like the increase in postage and
Yes.
Absolutely.
the full,
Yeah.
okay. We'll do that.
I think we're going to incur that expense
So-
anyway.
I agree. Yeah.
According to your executive summary, the part-time to full-time was figured in. That's, she already has that. And the poll book, software.
Well,
poll book.
that was regardless. I mean, that was just part of the CIP in both the no downtown flat budget model and the 2% model.
Okay,
So the CIP didn't vary that much between those two for FY21. Beyond that, for the no downtown versus downtown model, the CIP varies
okay.
from that one, but not FY21. So for FY21, the only changes, I list what the total changes are, but that's the only one that's an actual position increase.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the position, the postage, and the poll book. Is
Well,
that-
the poll book was regardless.
Regardless.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it'd be the postage and the position.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
I just,
Go ahead.
well, no, I was just going to make a comment that, regardless of if we go back and forth, I wanted to say thank you to Laszlo and the staff for putting this budget together and accommodating us just generally. I know it's not done yet. I found out last night on a conference call that the city of Manassas' budget assumes no decrease in sales tax revenue or B-poll or meals tax. They are not, their city manager presented a very different budget to their council than you presented to us. So I'm saying thank you, because even though it doesn't allow us to do everything that we like, it's probably much more accurate, and it will cause us a lot less heartburn
A lot more realistic.
in
Yeah.
the, at the mid part of the year, and at the end of the year, we won't find ourselves kind of at the end saying, wow, I wish we wouldn't have done it that way because it didn't pan out to the more aggressive.
It's easier to scale up if we need to.
Well, right, I
Yeah,
mean, it's easier
exactly.
to, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So just thank you.
yeah.
And we'll have a final one as soon as we finalize that spreadsheet. And we get we'll develop kind of the final budget book, but we'll hang on to this draft, in case we want to go back to it in the future, if we're able to. If the
Okay.
economy just rebounds miraculously and everything's going great in FY21, then we'll probably come back in December and request a revisiting of this.
You'll do the save as.
Yeah, absolutely.
The proposal that Randy had in her video is not included, is that correct? Because she referenced.
Yeah, the additional FTE and all that.
$5,000 in additional revenue, and some of that was going to go to the additional position that is not.
Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. We were still unclear.
I'm sorry, I just brought it up because she made it very specific.
Yeah. They were the state was supposed to fund a 1.5% increase in pay for our social services employees across the state, but we found out that's going to be zero now. Yeah, so that's sad. So we were hoping that even if we couldn't do it, for everybody else, at least if the state was going to fund it for our social services, that would have been great. But they're at essentially a flat budget. Yeah. I'm not sure how they got the funding for the schools, but everything else seems to be flat.
Okay. Okay, have we concluded all of our questions and comments?
If
Okay.
we have more, should we put them on email?
I beg your pardon?
If we have more things should we put them on email?
Oh, absolutely.
still have some
We
time, yeah.
generally do. yeah,
Because we already
yeah.
advertised both numbers, right? So essentially ratified anything after that point. That
Okay,
One of those, we can't go higher, but we can go lower.
I think you can go higher except for the tax rate. Is that right, Dean? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't raise the tax rate.
But I
Yeah.
was wondering about the budget, like the overall number. Is that a not to exceed number or no?
I think you can go over,
I
right?
don't have an answer for you, I can check on it, but I don't think that's the problem. The problem is the tax rate.
Yeah. I remember last time we had this conversation, I think that's where you were leaning, is that you can increase the budget, but once you adopt the budget and you want to do any amendment, if the amendment increases it by over 1%, then you have to advertise, right? Yeah. All right.
Well, Laszlo, thank you for all the questions that you've answered so far. Yeah, much appreciated. Okay, let's move on to 8E, resolution regarding unauthorized disclosure of privileged and confidential information. Dean, you are up.
I am up. Finally. No one else is going to call in and ask for questions, huh? All right, so this is something that was added at the last minute, and I appreciate adding it, but and it resulted from an individual claiming that he was privy to attorney-client privileged and confidential information that was discussed at a closed meeting That was of great concern to me. Two issues arose from that. One is whether or not the attorney-client privilege was waived. And as I've explained and is explained in this resolution, it's not waived if the assumption is that one member of this governing body somehow leaked information, that one person could not waive the attorney-client privilege. So in this case here, the attorney-client privilege is not waived. The resolution reaffirms that, just so we can still go into closed meeting. You can still have confidential and privileged conversations with me regarding the subject matter. We haven't even been able to confirm that there was a leak either. So I don't know if this was true, if it was bluster, what's going on here. But because there's a concern that it might have had an unauthorized disclosure, that's the second piece. So if I can't take reasonable care or can't be reasonably assured that the care I'm taking is going to maintain confidentiality, I can't ethically brief you on attorney-client privileged information. In addition, there's a problem if we go into closed meeting to discuss something that is allowed as one of the exceptions. If somebody speaks about that, then we won't be able to go into closed meeting to discuss that again, and that could cause some problems. So, for instance, if we are looking to purchase some property, well, if we discuss it, now we can't go in and talk about the terms of that. So it really caused a very real problem. So, kind of to get my comfort level to where it needs to be, I'm asking all of you to approve unanimously this resolution that basically says, and I'll read there's 4 points here. One is just to reaffirm that the attorney-client privilege and the attorney work product doctrine, and the work product doctrine is work product of an attorney that's prepared in anticipation of litigation. So it's related, but it's slightly different. Both of those can only be waived by a majority vote of the governing body. The governing body's members, I'm asking you also to commit to not disclosing and to helping to prevent the unauthorized disclosure of all attorney confidential information, and that's defined in the recitals as attorney-client privileged information and attorney work product information. But then also other confidential information, which is information that's prepared by staff, employees, officers, agents, city manager, that is allowed to be protected through the Freedom of Information Act. Okay, so that's what we're calling other confidential information. It also directs the city manager to take measures to prevent the unauthorized disclosure of attorney confidential information and other confidential information by city officers, employees, and agents. And it directs me to remind all participants in each closed meeting that they are not to disclose to anyone who did not participate in the closed meeting any attorney confidential information or other confidential information discussed in the closed meeting without the approval of the governing body, as evidenced by the affirmative vote of a majority of its membership. So 4 things, they're all kind of saying the same thing. Attorney-client privilege, work product doctrine, protect information that's prepared by the attorney. You all, as a majority of you, as the legislative representatives of the city, which is technically the client, have the ability to waive that, and only a majority of you can waive that. And then the rest of it is the confidential information that's prepared, some of it by me as well, but mainly by the staff. So anyway, with that, I recommend that you vote on this and approve it, hopefully.
Questions, comments?
Question.
Yes.
Is there a time limit or a statute of limitations
On what?
on closed meetings information?
No, so if we go into closed meetings, say, and we're discussing negotiations of a contract,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's attorney-client privilege. I'm advising you on the terms of a contract. You come out later and you approve a contract. Well, that's no longer privilege. I mean, that contract's not, you can talk about that contract. The legal advice I gave you, however, should not be disclosed. That's always protected. Now, similarly, if we go into closed meeting to discuss, say, the acquisition of property for a public purpose, once we actually acquire that property, it's no longer necessary to be able to go into closed meeting to discuss that. So you can discuss that. I would advise against ever saying what occurred within the closed meeting, though. Because while it may not affect the overall position, because we've already purchased it, it will cause problems with the people who are in there. They're not going to trust you. Okay, and it creates problems. If you can't trust the people who are in there, then we can't be candid in our advice. So it's kind of important to just kind of keep that. So similarly, if you're, like we're doing these conference calls and stuff when we're in closed meeting, you need to make sure that your mic or your speakerphone's off, because if someone's in the family that can hear it, there's not a reasonable expectation of privacy, and therefore we could very well inadvertently waive the privilege just because we all have agreed that this is acceptable. There may be an implied consent to waive it by accepting that. So we need to make sure that we're alone, we're not on speakerphone, we're taking reasonable steps to protect the privacy when we're on these conference calls, or these closed meeting conference calls. So that's, any other questions?
Okay. Councilmember Machado, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, and I agree with to maintain the confidentiality of information protected by attorney-client privilege.
Thank you. Councilmember Sendejas, questions, comments?
No question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone?
I hope that the person claiming that they know a lot of information from closed session is not telling the truth.
Well, we haven't been able to prove anything. It's just been, maybe there was a little piecing together of some potential information, and I don't know. I'm hoping it's not true. That person is spreading confidential information, and that's a kind of, to me, it's an integrity issue. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. But that's about as far as I'm going to go. I've done my due diligence to try to protect the confidentiality, and you all, if you approve this, will have done the same thing. So.
We appreciate the advice that you give us, because some of it's so very sensitive to particular people or businesses or.
Well, there's a very real reason that so the attorney-client privilege is a very old privilege, and it's designed to allow free exchange of information back and forth between the client and the attorney. If you don't have that, what client is going to talk to an attorney if they can't be assured that that's a privileged communication? No, I mean, I cannot, a judge can't make me tell what's privileged unless it's been waived. So it's a very, very, it's a strong privilege, but it's also a delicate one, because it can be waived very easily. And fortunately, in the case of a body such as ours, the governing body, or the board of directors or whatever, the corporate entity, it's generally understood that only a majority of them can waive it.
I didn't know we could even waive that, even by majority vote. I didn't realize that.
So typically a client, so let's say that I was at an airport and I was having an attorney-client privilege communication with you. There's a really good argument to be made that that's not privileged, because I don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in an airport. You go to some countries, and some countries are automatically listening in, and you should know that. So go to China, do not bring your phone and call over here, because they are listening to everything you're saying. And there are other countries do the same thing. So you have to be very careful. And that's, you may remember a few years back, I asked everybody to get city email addresses. Same concept, because even though it's very unlikely that any of the free email providers would actually go through and look at what was being said, they state right in their terms that they go ahead and they mine your email information. Now they're doing it to kind of sell your information out there to various marketers and stuff. But that waives the attorney-client privilege, because there's not a reasonable expectation of privacy, because someone's going through there and looking at that stuff. Maybe a bot doing it, but there's some physical mechanism where they're doing that. So it's very important to maintain this.
Okay. Well, with that, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and adopt the attached resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you all. Appreciate that.
And managers report.
We lose Miriam?
I think just the camera went off. Miriam, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Move that over here. So I can display that. I'll share my screen. Share this one. Okay. So you all saw my email, I believe it was yesterday, discussing the governor's plans for reopening the economy. There's a three-phased approach. The goal is to start phase one on May 15th, where certain businesses will be reopened, right? Including gyms and restaurants and other things. So most businesses will be reopened in phase one. Those employees who can telework, it's still encouraged during phase one to telework. People who are vulnerable populations should still be staying home during phase one. It's not clear if it's linked now, if like the June 10th stay-at-home order is going to be brought back to May 15th, but there was a language there about safer at home now versus stay at home, right? So it sounds like it's more of a guidance, but I haven't seen any updated executive order kind of clarifying what the requirements are. But we want to plan for what the phased reopening of the city, what it would mean. So there's tentative planning going on. We have a call on Friday with all the city managers and county executives in Northern Virginia, with the governor's chief of staff, to discuss kind of initially what the Northern Virginia approach should be. But before I go there and talk about that, I want to consult with you all, because ultimately it's going to be your decision, right, for what we do as a city. If you agree with kind of the timelines, or you think we should push it back, should we be following the federal guidelines, which states you should be waiting 14 days till you see declining numbers? Well, in Northern Virginia, it's not declining. So if we want to do that, perhaps the region should come together and say, you know what, no, we still don't think, we want to follow the federal guidelines and wait for 14 days of verifiable decline before we move to the phase one of what the governor's saying, kind of following more of the CDC guidelines versus the different approaches that all the different governors are having across the country. So I really kind of want to hear from you all on kind of what your thoughts are on
So
that.
when you say 14-day decline, you're talking about flattening the curve? Is that what
Exactly,
that's
yeah,
what
you
they
want-
mean? Okay.
Exactly. And it's a little bit problematic because testing is going up. So in reality, what you'd want to see is, as a percentage of testing, what is the positive, right? But the data just, and Keith and I were looking at the data even just right now, and you have different tables, and it's not quite clear. But regardless, yeah, the numbers aren't looking as good. Northern Virginia is very different from the rest of the state. So there was, and this is Madam Mayor from attending the NVRC meetings, that there was a request to the governor to treat different regions differently, because we're all a little bit different. So that's really what the focus of this Friday's call is going to be with the chief of staff. Okay, what's our perspective for how we should do this? But I wanted to kind of see what your all's perspective as well was before
I did see Governor Northam, I believe, was in today's or yesterday's Washington Post, and he made some kind of comment that we're all in this together, and he doesn't want to regionalize the state. He wanted to have a statewide policy on reopening the phases and stuff like that. So I don't know. We may be holding up the rest of the state if we can't get the number of cases to come down. I mean,
well, that's why there was a request for him to kind of categorize it in regions and say, okay, Southwest Virginia, clearly you can move to phase one now, right? Certain other areas that are more urban, right? Maybe treat them differently, right?
I don't think he's.
No, that's not his approach. You're right.
I don't think he wants to do that, though. I think he wants to do an all or nothing.
Absolutely. And so the issue is, I think a lot of our enforcement of what we can do in terms of 10 people rules and all that comes from the governor's executive order. So we really, at the end of the day, we don't have a choice. We have to follow it. We at least want to continue that dialogue, and what we have control over is, at least for government facilities. What's our approach to reopening government facilities that we do have control over? So we can't necessarily regulate other things, but we can at least try to speak with one voice as a region and say, well, even though this is happening, we still want to manage X, Y, Z this way. So you saw with what I emailed you yesterday, my recommendation is kind of phase one
right? We just reopened City Hall. That's kind of the primary mission, for the city. Its residents can get there, especially with the voter registrar, treasurer, commissioner of revenue, permitting. We can at least open up City Hall, but we want to do so responsibly, and I'm going to outline how we do that. And then you saw, in phase 2, social services adjust a little bit, right? So you'll have kind of a number you can call to go into the office so they can control how many people are in the lobby at once. So you kind of have a gradual reopening during phase 2. Vulnerable populations are still instructed to stay home during phase 2. And phase 2, the one change is instead of the 10-person rule, it goes up to 50. And then for phase 3, that limit goes off. But you saw in my email, my recommendation is for don't do events of 500 or more, right? I really think we should wait to see what's going to happen nationally in terms of professional sports. I think that's what's really that's what drove all the shutdowns was the NBA when they canceled their season and they had their first, that led to the responses. So I think the opening in terms of events with massive amount of people, when sporting events are allowed to have fans back in the stadiums, then we've reached a certain milestone that it's probably at that point safer for us then to also do larger scale events as well. And they're directly coordinating, with the CDC as well, the sports leagues for guidance. So I don't think we want to veer off too much. It would be very inconsistent where they're practicing that, but then yet we're having events with thousands of people kind of gathered together before we reach what I call the post phase 3, which is where they have an effective treatment, right, or a vaccine, right, or whatever the other criteria are. At that point, we can end our local state of emergency. We can go back to 100% workers back. So even in phase 3, my recommendation is we keep a 25% reserve, because again, like we were freaked out just a little while ago that we were going to shut down one department, right, because we thought there was an exposure. So we want to reduce that risk until it's gone, right, or we have an effective treatment or anything. We still want to keep some employees in reserve just in case an entire section gets it and we're quarantining them, even though it's not a big issue anymore. But it so happens to be that one division or one section or one department, it spreads throughout. You have some employees who can come in and backfill that. So those are kind of the different outline phases that I shared with you all last night. The community center, I think that's the big one, in the water park. The reason why we're waiting, or recommendation is to wait for the community center until phase 3, is because the Parks and Rec staff are directly involved in COVID-19 responses, and those need to continue on to phase 1 and phase 2. And in order to safely reopen City Hall, we're going to have to utilize Parks and Rec staff as well. And so right now, the tentative timelines, if you follow the 2 to 4 week, right, is you're looking at getting at phase 3 sometime between June 15th and July 15th. According to kind of the guidelines of 2 to 4 weeks in each phase, right? So at some point there is when we'd be reopening the community center. Once we get into phase 3, let's say it happens July 1st, we're back in phase 3, we would want 2 to 3 weeks of ramp up time before we open up the water park. Because you got to get the lifeguards, you got to go through training, you got to get everything up and running. But that would be the goal, is to do something like that. All that, of course, is before we hear from the rest of the region. Because the rest of the region might say, no, we're not opening up our water parks this summer. We're not opening up our community centers at all. Then we have another decision. Do we want to speak with one voice and do that or not? But I think we just need to start having the dialogue. In terms of City Hall, the plan is to utilize 7 Parks and Rec staff members, because we're going to limit the number of people who are inside City Hall at once. We're going to be utilizing floor tape, color-coded, right, to guide who's going to what section of City Hall, and keeping everyone spaced out, because the 6 feet requirement is still in place for phases 1 and 2. So we know at least for the next month, at a minimum, we're going to have to follow those 6 feet requirements, the 10, 50-person rules, right? So we want to at least follow those 6 feet requirements. So we're going to have to tape, provide tape to guide that requirement inside. But we're essentially just like you see some grocery stores where they have someone outside, and then they're on a radio saying, okay, let in X amount of people. That's what we're going to be doing. You'll see the next slide, kind of what the internal configuration looks like. Outside, though, we're going to we're going to utilize a certain section of the parking lot there to have the lines for the different functions. So the community development department would, for permitting, remain by appointment. Their volume is very low, but we don't want them waiting in long lines if they don't have to, right? So they can just schedule by appointment, so they can just coordinate who to deal with during the day by appointment, and that limits the number of lines that we have to have.
Everyone else, you're going to be kind of, you'll come in, you'll engage with the Parks and Rec staff who's going to have a survey sheet to figure out who you need to see, right? Because sometimes customers don't know, do they need to see the Commissioner of Revenue or do they need to see the Treasurer? So we're going to do our best to guide them who they need to see, what line they need to wait in, and then the supervisor, the Parks and Rec supervisor outside there will be in communication with inside Parks and Rec staff who are inside who can see how the lines are doing, right? So as more space is available inside for people to come in, then they let X amount of people in each time. So if you look at how it's structured.
The organizational level reminds me of Disney World.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they line you up for the rides and.
Right.
Just don't have the tram.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Keith drew this up, so I thank him for kind of taking the time to do this. Inside, you can see we have the different areas, and we try to color code everything. I'm going to walk up here, so I'm just so I can walk you through it.
Wires.
Yeah, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. So you can see the building permitting right here where it says CD. They can serve 3 people at once. You get 1 person at the counter and then 2 spaced out here. We want to have walkways, right? This will be your entrance, this will be your exit, right? So you have open walkways throughout. If you need to see the registrar, they can take 5 people at once. 1 person at the counter and then spaced out here. Commissioner here, treasurer here. They all roughly can serve between 5 and 6 except for the community development, which can serve 3. The complicating factor is sometimes after you see the Commissioner of Revenue or after you see building permitting or after you take care of your voter registrar, guess what you also want to do? You want to go see the treasurer.
Right.
Which is why we need that more Parks and Rec staff inside, is they'll walk them here. So instead of them having to go outside and wait in the line again, we'll line them up here. If there's more than 3, they'll be walked over here and be sat here, spaced out. And so you're going to have roaming kind of Parks and Rec staff with a supervisor with a radio in contact with each of these sections and the people outside to kind of coordinate and to make sure that we're keeping everyone spaced out 6 feet apart and that everyone's able to exit here safely. That's kind of the plan for phases 1 and 2.
They're like guides or escorts.
Exactly, and we're going to try to put signs and color code tape, but we're going to have internal guides and escorts so that we make this a simple process. Because other businesses, it's a little bit easier, right? You're selling hamburgers, or you're there for one purpose. Here, you're here for multiple purposes, and very sometimes complex purposes, because you don't know if you need to talk to Debbie or if you need to talk to Patty, right? And so we want to make this as user-friendly experience for our residents as possible, with all of the the constraints, so we can reopen as soon as possible, so they they feel that they're getting their service, and we briefed everyone today. We sat down. We're also going to have a police officer sign here as well. So we talked about National Night Out. I know that was an email as well. The real cost with National Night Out is the overtime. We'd like to shift those costs to assigning the police officer here. Right? So we have a police officer during phase 1 and phase 2, because you can get people who are frustrated sometimes, and we need to make sure that we're following all guidelines. So we want to have an officer there to support our Parks and Rec staff as they're dealing with. Again, another awesome, Parks and Rec is just great. They do so many different things for us, and this is just another example. They allow us to do this during phases 1 and 2. There's no real change between phases 1 and 2 in terms of the 6 feet requirement. The only change is from, the 10-person kind of mass gathering versus the 50 restriction for mass gathering. But we want to at least keep people kind of spaced out here and through phases 1 and 2. And then as we get into phase 3, those things go away, right? We won't need the lines outside. We're still going to keep the tape there. As it's suggested, right, that you still try to practice social distancing. It's no longer a mandate under phase 3. So the community center can reopen. Even the community center, even when we reopen, we're going to have tape just ran 6 feet apart so people understand kind of, we're going to encourage social distancing when we do reopen. Again, it's not going to be mandated at that point per the current guidelines. Phase 3 does not mandate the 6 feet distancing, but we're still, as a reference, we're going to have the tape still on the floor, and we're still going to make, recommendations to our patrons to be safe and try to keep, we're going to space out equipment still, things like that to try to continue to limit the spread even when we go to phase 3. And then eventually, the post-phase 3, you have treatment, you have a vaccine, things like that, and then you can get rid of all the tape and just go back to normal life. So that's kind of the tentative timeline. But again, I really want to hear from you all, kind of what your preferences are, how we manage these 3 phases. what our input should be to the regional discussion that we're going to be having here.
We're what, how many, 3 weeks away from Memorial Day?
About, yeah.
I mean, I'm not a scientist, but, but, we don't have, I don't see that the cases are going down. I mean, I just don't, I mean, maybe we're flat, but flat means lots of people are still getting sick. Flat doesn't mean we're all better. It just means we're not going up. And so, at least in my mind, I go to work every day because I have to, but I've kind of been looking at the June 10th deadline, that June 10th kind of order. I've kind of kept that in my mind, is that we really wouldn't have anything really open till June 10th.
Mm-hmm. Our governments are taking that approach.
I mean, and I think it was said a long time ago, it was back in March when he did the executive order for June 10th, but he wasn't wrong. I think that, at least getting through Memorial Day.
Well, are you saying hospitalizations are increasing, or
Well, I'm
positive testing is increasing? Because that's two different things.
Well, but I mean, I don't think that the rate of infection has gone down. I mean, it's
cases.
But if they're testing, then the rate of infection would go up. It's like Laszlo said earlier, it's percent based on how many tests have been given.
Right. I mean, and that just means there's a lot of asymptomatic people out there that don't
Right.
realize they're
And there
sick.
probably have been all along.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't, as I said, I'm not a scientist, but I would say I can't see us opening before Memorial Day at least. I mean, maybe we do the more, I don't know, what everybody else thinks, maybe to do kind of a more limited open maybe once we're through Memorial Day.
So when were you proposing to start
We
this?
would start, phase one is set to begin May 15th, so.
May 15th.
I don't think we do this on that Friday. Well, we've been talking as a staff that maybe we want to start that Friday, see what all the problems are, and then over the weekend adjust things. So I think that's where we ended up, because we were debating, do we want to start on Monday, or do we want to start on Friday? And then Debbie did make a good point. Well, why don't we just start Friday, see what all the issues are here, see what the complaints are, so over the weekend we can adjust the layout if we need to, and be, better prepared on Monday. But that's if we follow the phases. But to Donald's point, we don't have to, right? We can, we still have that discretion. And I can tell you just from, initial, it sounds like other governments, they wanted to stick with that June 10th timeline in terms of the, city or municipal activities. And then rec centers, I mean, same thing, pools, not even opening during the summer, programs canceled through the summer, right? That's kind of the discussions over the last week. Has that changed now with the governor's updated guidelines? That's what we're gonna find out on Friday, kind of hear from everyone else. So it's good to hear kind of that input about where your all's preferences are, because that's what I can share them. This is, as a city, here's what our preference would be.
Yeah, and especially like Preston was saying earlier that there are 96 cases in our small, just in our city. I mean, that's one for every 100 and about 100 over 200. One out of every 200 people has been diagnosed at some point.
Oh, I'm betting it's a lot more than
Yeah,
that.
Well,
but they're saying
probably.
that the ICU visits and the fatalities have decreased.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there was a recent report from Inside Nova. They said the ICU visits and the fatalities from the virus has decreased, but the cases have increased though, or still going up. So
I don't personally see anything wrong with this timeline.
I got a question. It's probably for Dean. It's regarding liability in a lawsuit. So a customer has a reasonable expectation that either the business or the city that they enter is going to take just the de minimis steps of following the CDC guidelines. And if they do happen to, get COVID-19 and it traces back to us in one of our buildings, I mean, we're exposed for a potential lawsuit. Is that right?
Well, we're always exposed for potential lawsuits, is whether or not it would prevail. If we're showing due diligence and taking the precautions, I mean, you can get sick going anywhere. I mean, it's just, as long as we're not saying, come on in, pack them in there, one on the other, these are reasonable steps that are being taken.
Okay.
Nothing that I've seen here that would indicate that we're being in any way negligent. And remember, the standard for the city is gross negligence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just standard negligence, it's gross negligence.
Okay.
So I'm not concerned about that. But, you know, there's always a potential we get sued. I mean, just getting sued doesn't mean anything. It just means someone's upset and they found some lawyer that agreed to file a lawsuit.
Right.
I'm fairly certain we could get it dismissed rather quickly, though, as long as we follow this process.
We get the flu from one another every single winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't agree with was the water park. I mean, doesn't the season end in August?
It
I
ends.
mean,
the
were we
Labor
just
Day
going to
weekend.
open it for 2 weeks?
Well, the goal, our internal goal was always, we were hoping August 1st.
Yeah.
So at least the month of August through Labor Day, we could be open for families, right? This timeline the governor lays out makes that a reality, that we probably will be able to. But again, remember, the governor said that he can postpone it, but there's a lot of pressure. You see all the economic numbers. There's a lot of pressure to open right now. So I think August 1st is a reasonable timeline that we probably will be able to open the water park. Now, if the rest of the region is saying, no, we want to close the water park throughout the summer, again, do we want to speak with one voice with the region, right? Just be consistent.
Well, I'm thinking about hiring the staff, getting them ready, and then, oh, hey, the season's up. You know what I'm saying? By the time they clock in, they're like, oh, okay, well.
You're right. From
We
that perspective,
Yeah.
we would think about just, giving something to our, to make our
Yeah.
residents and families happy.
Right.
At least
Okay.
1 month, because you do have teens who are out of work right now, right? So getting them some income at least. But Jay feels with 2 to 3 weeks, he can get operations back up and running. So it could be earlier, right? So if we're in phase 3 by June 15th, right?
Yeah.
You might be able to open the second week of July.
Could we open like July 1st or like maybe around July 4th?
We could try, like, if it's June 15th and the governor says we're moving into phase 3 and everyone's just following those guidelines, then yeah, we can make a strong push to be open for 4th of July weekend for the water park.
As long as something doesn't happen and we have to pull back
Right.
on what we're doing,
Or maybe
Yeah.
you open but only allow, you maybe wouldn't allow the full capacity in.
Yeah.
Like you can fit 400 people in, but maybe we only let 100 people in or something, where people could spread out and not be too clustered and.
I think that makes sense, because you still want to limit mass gatherings. That's why I don't understand how we move from groups of 50 or more prohibited to unlimited. That's a pretty big jump, right? You
Well,
would
right.
think
Or maybe you
there's
do
something there.
maybe you divide the day in half and I don't know, if you have a red wristband, then you can, maybe you do 12 to 3, and then if you have a blue wristband, maybe you do 3 to 6, so it allow more people to have access, but not have too many people at the same time.
Yeah, poor Jay, the last 3 weeks, I've been working a lot to figure out how we thought social distancing was going to continue for a lot longer, so that even when we open up the community center, we were gonna have to dramatically change our membership structure, right? Because we're limiting who can come and, when and how many people we allow in there. But if you look at the guidelines, phase 3, you're back to normal. We're gonna have, the tape, we're gonna have still the recommendations, but you're kind of back to normal operations at that point in phase 3. So, he did a lot of work, so we have plans for how we would do something like that for both the
That's
water
good.
park and the community center in case we have to default to. So he was very happy when I told him yesterday, you can scrap those plans, we're just gonna go straight. The other reason why we want to not open the community center for phase 1 or 2, which if gyms are open, theoretically you could open the community center, right? But the vulnerable populations are still being told to stay home in phase 1 and phase 2, so that would be
Right.
an equity issue where you're opening up your community center, but you're saying, hey, seniors and others, don't come here. Like,
Right.
That's just, to me, that's not fair, right? You
Right.
wanna open up to the entire population when you're ready.
Or do restricted times for seniors?
Well, they're being told not to.
Well, I mean, then maybe even phase 3, seniors come between 8 and
Well, in
1.
phase 3, the restrictions don't apply. Vulnerable populations can now go out there.
Oh,
They're
I
still
see.
asked
Everybody comes
to,
in.
take precautions. That's why we still want to have the tape. We still want, to guide our patrons to continue to practice social distancing, and especially if you're a vulnerable population, you probably want to keep your distance, even in phase 3 until you get to what I'm calling post phase 3 when there's effective treatments.
Is it possible maybe with the community center that maybe we only allow members and not, for instance, we won't allow drop-ins.
That could
You know what I
be
mean,
another-
we're, you know, you have a membership, you are paying, and so you'll get the priority because we're not gonna allow somebody who doesn't have a membership to come in.
Yeah.
That could be a.
That's
maybe
almost
a-
like the model we were gonna go,
Mm.
right? So like in memberships, you kind of like you're reserving certain time slots as well. And then
Oh,
once
okay.
those time slots were all reserved, then we kind of opened it up. So that was kind of the model we were, but
Gotcha.
at this point, and that was always kind of frightening for Parks and Rec staff to get kind of compliance and complaints. So this kind of makes it easier if we just wait till phase 3 and then just open normally and just, you know, encourage social distancing and try to space out equipment and utilize tape. That's easier for Parks and Rec staff to manage. And we're still gonna keep, you know, the protective kind of, you know, plastic, you know, for our customer service employees, right? So people can't cough on them and things like that. We'll still keep that until we get to that, you know, post phase 3.
Yeah, I think it's important to try to get back to normal. I think people want to, for the most part.
What was the impetus for the governor, or reasons for the governor changing his timeline?
Well, here's the thing, right? So there was 2 different executive orders, so it was a little bit complicated. But you had one for businesses that kept them closed till May 8th.
Right.
Right, or I think it was April 30th at first, and it got pushed back to May 8th. But then there was also the stay-at-home order on June 10th. So it was always a little bit confusing what happens when the
Mhm.
April 30th or May 8th business thing ends, and then, but you still have the June 10th, right?
Mhm.
So I'm hoping there's like one executive order that kind of consolidates everything and provides clear guidance. We haven't got that yet, but there was always that timeline about reopening businesses. So the idea is you're just calling more businesses essential, so you're still encouraging people to stay home,
Mhm.
but, you know, instead of just the grocery store and other things being open, now you have more expansive businesses, or business openings. So you now have options to go out, but there's a guide, you know, there's these restrictions still, like in restaurants and everything for, so, like what we have here,
Mhm.
businesses, when they're gonna allow people back in, they gotta follow these restrictions as well, really through phase 1 and 2. There's not a lot of changes between phase 1 and 2 when you look at the actual details.
Okay.
I guess I just worry about compliance. I worry about, you know, just, I mean, I'm willing to stay home because I don't want to be sick. And I know I have to go to work. I have to physically go to work. So I would rather stay my butt home because it's, you know, yeah, I may not end up on a ventilator, but I just don't want to be sick. And you know,
I think that still is the governor's guidance, that's why he's calling it safer
That's the
at home.
consumer's mindset right there. And that's
Not
why the
mine.
economy won't recover, because they're going to stay home.
well, because not that I wouldn't go out and take reasonable precautions, because I do now. I mean, I have to go get groceries, you know. I'm not 120 pounds. I do eat. But you know, if we're all in this together, and we really are, then we all, you know, we need to wait this out. Like, we don't want to, you know, and not just Manassas Park, because this is more of a big picture, but just that, you know, we don't want to have everybody go out and then we had a second wave this summer, this fall. I mean, you know, to do this over again, and maybe the second wave is bigger than the first one.
Let's hear from the folks at home. We
Can
haven't
I
heard from them.
actually? No, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alana, go
That's
ahead.
cool. I go after them.
Councilmember Machado, do you have anything to comment on?
Yes, when I first heard about phase 1 from Governor Northam, I am concerned that it's too premature, but there are a lot of pressure for that. I'm concerned, if we go with phase 1, I'm concerned for the employees' health, in the sense that I don't know how well prepared we are going to be to provide adequate PPE, to have building sanitation, constant building sanitation, so we don't expose not only employees but current customers that come to our buildings. So I'm very concerned still about phase 1.
Thank you. Councilmember Sendejas?
The same thing. I'm concerned about about testing. So a lot of people who fall on the bracket that they cannot pay for a test because they make some sort of higher income, but they don't have insurance. They're like stuck about using that money to get tested or not. So right now, like that's a big concern for some of the community members. So just like risking it by going outside and working without knowing if they have the virus or not. Also, when it comes to like face masks or protecting oneself, there's a lot of people that I guess don't use a face mask when they go in public. Ideally we wanted to do it, but some people, believe in, having autonomy on their own bodies and stuff. So that makes it a little bit challenging as well. So I have some concerns. Ideally, we wish that people could follow protocols of washing their hands for 20 seconds. If they sneeze, making sure that they're far away and not be around people. But that's one of those things where we cannot control people's behavior, but at the same time, we need to do our part to make sure that our employees, are able to protect themselves. If we're able to not have them around many people, that'll be best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mensing.
I agree with Donald and Hector and Miriam. I think we need to be conservative because we're not just talking about ourselves, we're talking about our employees and having them come back to work. And I know I work for the community center, and you tell me maybe I might go back to work in July. I don't know about that. You can't tell kids to stay 6 feet away. They don't know what that means. So everyone has their own unique situation. I would err on the side of caution. It's my feeling that let everyone else be the guinea pig. We can lag behind a couple weeks and just see how it goes. But it frightens me that this is happening so quickly. And I understand there's an economic factor behind it, but not everyone is going to come out on the other side the same as I might or we might. So I think we have to take that into consideration.
For the June 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's probably the consensus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
Do you have an opinion?
No, whatever
Yeah.
the body, yeah.
I was just going to ask, is there any concern about loss of function or lack of access for our residents with their offices, how they currently are, or?
I don't know if you all have heard more, like, I think it's been functional. I haven't heard it, but again, I think you would all probably be more in tune with
I
our
have
residents.
heard no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, again, we've been taking people by appointment, and that allows, Patty and Debbie to kind of control how many people are in the building at once. Same thing with the building permitting, and then Patricia, she has her guide. So if she needs to open, we're going to open those days where voting requirements are, or registration or other things as well. So.
Yeah, because she's going to be open the Saturday before the June 9th primary by state law. She has to, because this is the cap. And this is also, because you have 8 hours of early voting that's required the Saturday before the primary.
Yeah, so when those things happen,
That's
if
like-
we have to accommodate the voter registrar, then we open at that time, and we try to do it as
It's a
safely as possible.
primary, so there won't be a real huge turnout,
Right.
fortunately, for her department.
Yeah, it'll be like a test run, though, kind of
Yeah.
how you.
I guess just make sure she has enough PPE for everybody.
And that's
all
something
her
Keith has
staff.
been on top of, making sure our employees, so that's why we've been handing out these masks.
Yeah.
We have two, so you can wash one while you're using one and just keep kind of.
have
Oh, they're
two.
washable.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
washable,
Go.
so.
I got
good.
I have one
So
of
we
them. too.
handed them out to
Actually,
every employee.
Excellent.
But between orange or black.
Gloves, of course, those things
Excuse
don't.
me,
100%.
Laszlo,
Yes,
this is Randy. Can I say something?
yes.
Randy still.
I just wanted to say that during this entire time, we've had no complaints from citizens, and we've seen our applications double.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of concerns that if we come back too quickly, it could wipe out our entire department.
Yeah, that's the risk.
Oh.
I mean, Randy, she's absolutely correct. That's always been the risk with us because we're so short-staffed that if you have 1 or 2, 3 people who get it and they're all from the same section, that whole thing shuts down.
Mhm.
So it was like a big concern just a while ago that everyone from the
Okay.
Treasury Department was gonna have to be home, and we were gonna have to figure out a way to get deputized finance employees and get them trained somehow. It's a big concern, like,
Yeah.
because we're so small, that's why we've tried to do the, if you have symptoms that, it's, don't even come in, right? That's been what we've been telling our employees, and we've been staggering. So for like the treasurer, they don't have everyone on staff every day. Some people are working, from home that way. If they get exposed that day, those people can then self-quarantine, and the ones who weren't working that day then can come in. And we've been doing that throughout the city. So Chris and Valerie have been home this whole time. In case Keith and I get it, then we have some centralized support staff that can come in. If Keith and I are quarantined,
Okay.
we still need some people for that. So throughout the city, we've been trying to do that. Finance department, we pretty much had, telework, or they come in for certain things, but then they stagger when they do come in. So we've applied this across the city to whoever can work remote, we've been doing that. And then when they have to come in, we just make sure that they're staggering when they do come in, so that we don't have, a large group of people in at one time.
Randy, thank you so much, and congratulations for doubling your workload with the same number of people. That's fantastic.
Maybe she's not
She
there.
hung up.
Can you hear me? There we go. Thank you.
Oh.
I'll relay that to the staff.
Oh, that's incredible performance, Randy.
I mean,
It is. I'm very proud of them.
Yes, yes.
I mean, if you feel like
Thank
you're
you.
comfortable, I mean, June 1st is a Monday. I mean, I don't know if that helps, or,
Just wait and see how it goes with everyone else opening up.
Do the departments have like those hand sanitizer dispensers or
Yeah, we've been putting up additional dispensers.
in the hallways and?
Correct. We probably need to do a little bit more now that we're gonna be opening, but yeah, we've been wiping. I mean, Parks and Rec staff come here all the time, they wipe every single door, they put that spray that I have to go outside for a while after. And we're gonna have to do that, so the idea is when you have downtime here, right?
Yeah.
That you have these staff members, they're spraying and they're wiping down everything, and each department has their own cleaning,
Has
so
their
they're
cleaning.
wiping down counters,
Yeah.
and so we're doing everything feasible, but it's not foolproof. Again, these masks don't protect you, only an N95 mask.
I got an
will protect you.
N99 one. Yeah.
Donald, in regard to
He's like, I ain't paying.
N99, didn't know they existed.
Yeah.
In regard to the June 1st, what we could do is we could probably have this conversation again on the 19th when we meet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I looked at the calendar and I was like, oh, June 1st is a Monday, and it's kind of an even, but that would give us 4 more weeks, of, to see how it's going, and hopefully that it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the governor is going to relent on the June 10th. I was just thinking too, we'd have that week, because you'd have the June 6th, the registrar would have to be open here. So I mean, kind of, that's a date certain that we have to be open that day. Maybe
Well, let's revisit this on the 19th.
Yeah, I'll let you
Yeah.
know how the
Sure.
call goes on Friday, so you
Yeah.
know what everybody else is
Yeah.
thinking. I'm sure that we're gonna have a follow-up call on Monday with the mayors and chairs, and so by May 19th, I think we'll have a better idea of what the rest of the region is doing, and then, we can do whatever we want, but we don't have to necessarily follow them, but.
In your regional meeting, are you guys going to discuss PPE and making sure at least our police and fire department personnel have the proper mask?
Yeah, we've been doing that from the start, and we've been, putting in orders. It's been a real pain to do that, but yeah, we've been doing that to make sure that those who are, doing home inspections, right? Fire, police, that they have, it's not just fire, police, so Randy's team that will go and do APS and CPS investigations now, have that 95 masks when they do go into homes.
Good.
Calvin's team, if they have to do an emergency, inspections, they'll be equipped. So we identified who's going to put themselves at risk there, and then we made sure to try, get enough N95s. There's the N95 cleaning device as well. I don't know if we've finally been successful in getting that as well.
We have an arrangement in place where we can take them to get cleaned, but our current usage is not high enough to warrant that, and we have plenty of N95 in stock currently.
Yeah, we've been
Good,
keeping on
good.
top. We got all
Thanks,
the
Keith.
charts with all the, where we're at with PPE across the city, who needs it, and when we knew this was coming, we said, okay, every city staff member, we're gonna have to get them gloves, we're gonna have to get them masks. When we reopen, even though we can't force our customers to do that, right? They have free right, to access government services, but we can, at least have our employees kind of show a good example and
Yeah.
it's spread amongst themselves. Because they're still going to be behind certain barriers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll pick this up again on the 19th, and we will move on to closed meeting now. Dean, do you have a motion for us?
I do, let me get up to the podium. So I can say it
Okay, so we
correctly.
everybody can hear you.
Okay, I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to discuss and consider both the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and the disposition of publicly held real property, which will also require the provision of legal advice by the city attorney. And then the second reason is to discuss the award of a public contract and the terms of such contract, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the city, pursuant to paragraphs 3, 8, and 29 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Mayor, I also